We're into our penultimate day here in the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. My name is Imperium with the wonderful, the joyous, the handsome, the smexy, the man, the myth, the legend, the hero, that just doesn't need to wear a cape. Zute is right by my side along the way. Once again, second last day, man. It's crazy how it's all come down to kind of like these last 2 days. We started nearly 3 weeks ago, and it's pretty wild.
I got 3 words for you, Imperium.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Yes.
If you guys don't get that reference, look it up on YouTube. It's a meme that we've been passing around amongst us and the production crews, having quite a bit of a laugh from it. But let's take a look at the overall rankings, right? We are 3 weeks in, Imperium, and I feel like there's so many different storylines to be told here from the different communities that represent, or from the different teams representing these communities, from individual players to the teams and their just growth over the 3 weeks. It's been an absolute blast to be watching all of this and casting this with you.
Yeah, it has been, and the dust is kind of settling in terms of what we have in front of us over the last 2 days. France 982 points, Romania in second on 881. That's a 101 point difference. Like, we got to take a step back and admire France on just how resilient, how consistent the community teams have been, and when one has maybe faltered, the other team has stepped up and supported them in a big way, especially throughout, specifically like from the midway point of the second week. And as much as I want to see that challenge really come out for Romania, I would also understand how disheartening it would be if France were to lose first place so late into the tournament.
Oh yeah, it's possible, because keep in mind, there's 2 teams representing each of these communities. So it's not like France is just one team ahead with 100 points. Like, if you had to bridge a 100-point gap and it's just one team playing 4 matches a day, that's pretty like near damn impossible. Yeah, but it's 2 teams representing each of these communities. So in a way, you can almost say they're only 50 points ahead. Not the best comparison, but it kind of puts it into frame, you know, just how much of that gap it is. And what's really cool that I'm looking at now, from first to second, it's like about 100 points. From second to third, it's about 100 points. From third to fourth, it is 99 points. And from fourth to fifth, it is 101 points. So quite literally, all of these gaps are in the 100-point mark area. And from fifth to sixth as well, that's about 100 points. So that's why I wanted to mention that we have 2 communities representing each, or 2 teams. Sorry, I keep on messing that up. We have 2 teams representing each of these communities, and in a way, with 2 teams playing, that 100-point gap is kind of like a, you cover 50 points today, I cover 50 points today, and we'll break that gap. But of course, that depends on how well the other community ahead of them does too.
Exactly. Plus, we do need to factor in the fact that the teams are split into different groups. And in today's and even tomorrow's games, you're going to have Group D stepping out. So that means Italy, the Nordic countries, Greece, and Slovakia are all playing with only one representative. That's Red Moon, Mega Power, Greek Army, and 7-Up, all not competing in the final 2 days. So it does make it a little bit harder. I'm looking kind of specifically at I suppose Czech Republic and Greece to hold on to their positions, because UK, they have their two representatives, and for example, UK are only 11 points behind Greece. They're only about 50 points behind Czech Republic. That's more than possible in the final 2 days.
Yeah, so there's going to be a good chance that from 1st to 6th, there could be a chance we might see some movement there, right? I mentioned the 100-point, gap. That could be doable, but the big amount of movement is 7th place down to 9th and even 10th place. The point spread there was much closer, as you guys saw earlier. And just so everyone is aware, all of these teams, like the communities, certain groups will be sitting out on certain days, just like Imperium mentioned. And overall, though, all of the teams will be playing the same amount of days, the same amount of games. So everything will just be balanced out towards the end. But of course, it depends on how well they've done throughout the course of this tournament. That determines the prize pool for them. The communities will share the prize pool, by the way. That's another cool aspect of this tournament. First place for the community is going to be shared by the two teams representing that community.
Exactly, and to continue to reiterate, as we're about to get into game one, the path is upon us. This is all about just the communities coming together, support their respective teams, and help continue to build up the community. Well, this is it. Erangel is upon us. The playing path is up towards the north. Let's see where these teams go.
Yeah, it's a okay playing path as far as Erangel goes. There shouldn't be any issues. Potentially, you might see something happen more near towards the south, because of course that playing path is quite to the north. But what I'm excited to see today is to watch the teams that sat out yesterday play. Big, before they sat out yesterday, had a huge performance. Chasmok Gaming, representing France, a big performance. They showed that they could be potentially an even bigger contender than Game Lord as far as how hard they popped off 2 days ago. And then, of course, we have the 4 Romanian men playing today, too, that did not play yesterday. So these 3 teams are heavy hitting teams. And not to discredit the Showdown Gaming, aka Real Tiger 9, I think Real Tiger 9 still has a bit to go. They're another team that did not get to play yesterday. So we'll see how they do coming into today's matches. But the 3 other teams, Chasmok, Big, and 4 Romanian men, those are the heavy hitters that we will see today.
Yeah, I was just thinking as the teams are starting to drop down, wondering what Lemniscate were going to do. Because Real Tiger 9 weren't competing in yesterday's games, Lemniscate was dropping in Pachinki. Here's the answer. Shesh is on his own. 4 Romanian men who go for that Gaka split drop. Sarah is near him. I think Shesh knows it. I don't know if Sarah knows that Shesh is there, though. Either way, he's not going to want to take any chances. The thing that obviously hurts is, and we talked about it yesterday, when one player is slow on looting, that can hurt the rest of the team. He has been spot out and he takes a bit of damage.
Yeah, so he's been hiding behind that tree because he knows that they know that he's there. And unfortunately for them, he does get taken out. Yeah, he was waiting for a vehicle pickup the whole time, but it took a while for Lemniscate to find that new vehicle. So with that northern plane path, definitely impacting the Lemniscate team, because Real Tiger 9 is claiming Pachinki this time around. Lemniscate took that position yesterday when Real Tiger 9 was not playing, so they are kind of punished for it this time around with the plane path.
I also, honestly want to low-key criticize Lemniscate. Because you're on the second last day. If you don't have alternative drop spots in place this late into the tournament, where are you going, right? What are you doing? You know, how in your control has your good results been, right? I just don't consider it an excuse. I like the adaptability when they were dropping him Pachinki yesterday. Hey, cool. It allowed Bravos to have a bit of a cleaner split on their drop. But it's not like Lemniscate would have been going, okay, well, Bravos won't go for that clean drop. Oh, Real Tiger 9 won't go for Pachinki. They should have had a second or even a third core alternative drop spot in place in this kind of game. So, you know, it's a little bit disappointing in my eyes, unfortunately.
Yeah, they should not be having any issues. We saw one player go down and another player kind of just caught hiding right now because he doesn't want to make another sound. I will say though, sometimes the RNG of the vehicle spawns, it's from my 3 years of competitive gameplay, there have been times where we have planned out certain drop splits, stretching for those vehicle spawns. And then there were certain times where all of the options for the vehicle spawns just simply did not spawn in that game around. So it does happen, but it is extremely, extremely rare.
But it's a fair point you make. However, out of how many situations has it been where 2 to 3 teams are dropping around you?
That's
right.
True. We were always aware of the danger. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, if you know you're split dropping and you're split dropping for vehicles in an area where no other teams around you, yeah, that rare occurs that the vehicle isn't there. It's not as much of a negative impact. But when you know you have 2 to 3 teams dropping around you, you can rely even less on that vehicle spawn, because even then you're not guaranteed to get the vehicle if other players around you are looking for it as well. So as much as I get your point, again, when we want to see these teams improve, when we want to see these teams get better throughout the 2022 year, we need to be harsh with these smaller things, because it leads into the bigger moments. It leads into the bigger success that we want to see.
That 100% right there. Yeah, when we missed our vehicle spawns, we didn't lose our players. That's you're absolutely right. It just took longer to get to our looting the locations, but we always made sure there wasn't a risk of, losing players off drop. So heading into the rest of this match, we see that first circle more towards the eastern side. Nothing too special. Maybe we'll get some nice shifts that, change things up as we take a quick look at the La Familia team. They've been really slow the past couple of days. Yesterday was a little bit better than the previous days, but with only 2 days left, I want to see them back in form, right? This is a top 4 community. And I believe just last week was the week where they really kind of displayed what they could do, but this week so far it was just not terrible, but definitely they know they could play better.
Looking in the elimination feed, we see Rexpect under spot of bother at the hands of Chazmak. Although it's not looking the best for Chazmak, as Azer is down to his knees and focuses on a limited amount of health. This is around the shelter train. The support is there. Lovely nade by Shadowen. Connects onto Salazar, gets the knock, creates the time, creates the space. I can't see the rest of Rexpect trying to dip too far out of that shelter underground area, because they know that the fight has gone horribly against them.
Yeah, I think Rex is just gonna be forced into one of those situations where they just hide in the shelter area and try to listen for when Chasma Gaming leaves. But this is Chasma Gaming we're talking about. There's a good chance that they're gonna push this in and try and take out those 2 players. I mean, we're only into Circle 1, going into Circle 2. I think Chasma Gaming is not a team that is too worried about the circles until more towards the later game, as we see a lot of top teams starting to shift towards this, meta on Erangel, at least, because the map is so easy to rotate around and teams are so experienced in this map that they don't feel a need to favor a certain position so early on, right? We see them right now just immediately blocking like all the, or not blocking all the entrances, but looking to flank them in from the different entrances of the shelter area.
Yeah, this is classic 2-2 in my eyes. If they do pull it off, if they really look to execute it. Because they know that it's 2v4 against them. Sorry, towards them, should I say. And that's exactly what has happened. Big A tries to stand up on towards those stairs, goes down. Azer with the second. Classic. Just cleanly done by Chazmak. And they didn't really waste too much time. And they've got 4 eliminations within 9 minutes. Can't argue with it.
4 eliminations in the first beginnings of the match, and they clear out a team that could potentially, you know, hinder them later on because they're right next to each other in that position. But next circle comes out, a southern shift.
Wow.
Military Island, question mark. Probably not. I'm just gonna throw it out there, probably not. But that is in a sense, the circle has like jumped to like almost the 4th circle in terms of land that the teams will prioritize, right? That entire river, body of river, nobody's prioritizing that. And as far as Military Island goes, I don't think any teams are going to go down that way.
Eastern Stars, Game Lord, on the outskirts of the circle. Absolutely wonderful as it's 1 elimination point. Yes, Athos has gone down, but this is going to be a second. And when we look at these 2 communities, right? France and Romania, 1st and 2nd. Eastern Star need every single elimination point. And of course, placement point they can get, especially against Game Lord and Chazmak. So this is really spicing up.
Yeah. I wonder if that is targeted or more by means of the circle ships, right? We have seen those 2 teams kind of fight here and there, very rarely, but given the nature of the circles, it might have caused that. Or, fingers crossed, right? Coming into today and tomorrow, those 2 teams, or not those 2 teams, Eastern Stars in particular, is looking to hunt down the Game War side.
It's a good question. I don't think it's full on targeted, but it could be that calculation choice by Eastern Stars to maybe swing a little bit closer to where they feel Game Lord could be, because they know that Game Lord dropping Yasnaya, and the opportunity was there. They found 2 elimination points. So it was a really good question you ask. I know from speaking to Eastern Stars in the past that Kapala doesn't like to target teams, doesn't like to go for that kind of hot drop challenge in that regard. But I'm not denying that it was a little bit of a calculated rotation.
Yeah. And speaking of which, like, I've talked to other like higher level teams, like PMGC level teams and whatnot, and I think you're absolutely right. The days of targeting a team, hold on, as Chazmak is actually going to engage on this fight, pushing up super close to Bravis. That's a 1-for-1 trade. Pocus and a 1v1 himself. They
no way! You don't do that, Pocus.
The drop shot did not work for him there. Chazmak Gaming down to 3 players, so it is still even in terms of numbers. It looks like the Bravis side of things, though, don't necessarily have all the meds as Lewis is moving. Oh, Lewis might actually be knocked. Yeah, I think Lewis is actually knocked, trying to crawl to safety there. So 3v2 situation for the Chazmak side. Shadowin definitely overstepping, but his teammate from behind had his cover, and luckily he does not go down.
I don't think that was intentional by Pocus. I really believe that was him just looking to jump up and shoot into the window, but got a bit too close to the windowsill, and the animation took him over the sill. I really believe that was the case. And he did well to try and react to go for the drop shot, because it's like, oh no, I wasn't meant to go through the window. But either way, it was a good pickup for Bravis in that moment. They are, however, down to 1. Morphe boy, he's on his own.
Yeah, Morphe boy. And there we go. There's that shift. Yep, completely taking Military Island out of the question. Boom. And we see a lot of teams actually kind of set up for a potential military circle shift. They're controlling all of that shoreline side. So, I mean, the players don't trust the circles at all. They're just like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. We're not going to be caught with our pants down. But luckily for them, it does shift up hard to the north onto the main island. So we got Potato Hill in play. We got that large sprawling hillside that we've seen oh so many times come into the late game. And then, of course, big on that very northern edge, just taking their time, edging around. They're in no rush whatsoever. That sets up big perfectly for the type of plays they want to make. Isolated 4v4s on the edge as we break into the circle.
I don't necessarily love the timing of Big's rotations, though. I still think it's a bit too slow. Like, I feel like they could have been a bit more solidified into phase 2 on the northern side before phase 3 popped. That's just a personal observation and a bit of an opinion. We'll have to wait and see how it works out for them.
Yeah. Lemniscate's still on the military base island side, so they're the only team that's got to have to cross the bridge. Daddy IGL, the last player. Did I say flavor? The last player alive right now, hiding in the shack. Game Lord down to 2 after their scuffle with the Eastern Stars. Just trying to find whatever position they can. They're actually going to take a little bit more of a centralized position at this compound. This compound definitely defendable with 2 players, but you can see Victor here. Victor's trying to take care of the sole survivor of the 100 right now.
I don't know what happened to the 100. I really would like to put it down to them trying a lot of new things. This is a PMPL team. This is a team that last year in the full split were very close to qualifying for PMGC. In the spring split, very, very close to qualifying for the EMEA regionals. And honestly, they should be performing a lot better. I know they're not able to play at the moment with one of their star players, Alicio, but I don't really consider that much of an excuse because really, honestly, the best teams can play without, like, let's say they're one of their players not being able to compete. The best teams are able to back up in a situation where one of their stronger players isn't able to compete from that point of view.
I agree. 4 Romanian men right here, taking a nice central position at that compound. Just try and pick up some knocks, potentially some points, as Golden actually catches that last player, or one of the players from Game More. So Game More down to 1. Definitely committing a lot of resources to try and take out 100 Daddy IGL, or Daddy IGL from the 100, but not able to. He utilizes his smokes very well to make sure he covers those windows, because we saw how many grenades they try to throw. Next circle comes out. It is up on that northwestern side onto Potato Hill. 4 Romanian men.
Oh, no.
They're about to do a classic breach into that position. And Real Tiger 9 is actually going to readjust their position and take more of the left side control. I respect that.
I like it. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think they can hold the tippy top center against multiple teams pressing in from them from all sides. So it's a nice adjustment that they just made.
Honestly, unless they push a little bit further up the hill, I don't like where 4 Romanian men initially breached up the hillside, because you're at a massive risk against third party. I think they were aware of that, which is why they have crept a little bit closer. But Eastern Stars, Doran, what are you doing? Okay. That's happened. I don't know what he's doing, but he's on his own for the time being. Bazzy able to swing in. On a side note, I just noticed that Eastern Stars are not playing without the Warlord Kapahala in this game 1.
Yeah, so what Doran just did when he pulled up, when he fired his gun, is to just kind of create more of a presence, right? If he were to pull up and not shoot, the 4 Romanian men's side would feel more comfortable and like, okay, we could peek over, maybe throw some grenades, take some shots. But Eastern Stars, I don't know what they're doing right now, because Doran has a position. Oh, so they're readjusting their position. I guess Bazzi was trying to find a newer position for them, and this is not very Eastern Stars like. We usually see them just, very comfortable with just taking an edge position, especially even with 3 players. They're able to take that edge position and just work their way in later. But some wild rotations coming out from Bazzi there.
Why do you think I highlighted that the Warlord Kapahala isn't playing today? He's the IGL. And maybe that's why. Oh my god, Fear the Flame. What the hell? The Flame's being put out by Golden Esports. On a side note, if you weren't too aware and you're looking at going, who the hell are Fear the Flame? Formerly known as LMV, they changed their team name to Fear the Flame. happens to be connected to them in the past is back in early 2019. They were actually playing under Fear the Flame. They competed in the ESL Milan Mobile Open Finals under the Fear the Flame name. So it does have a lot of meaning to them. And they're bringing it back. They're going old school with the name.
They're going back to the roots, pretty much.
Exactly.
I always love seeing that out of, teams, especially esport teams, right? When they go back to their original roots, it's like a huzzah, so to say, to see if they could get that spark going back. But honestly, LMV / Fear the Flame, they've been doing okay, right? Most likely not as well as they want to, but it's not too terrible either, as long range shots from downhill. Chasmok Gaming. So you see Chasmok with 3 players, right? They're controlling that edge side beautifully well. So I was expecting Eastern Stars to keep 3 of their players up, but you mentioned their IGLs not playing today, and IGLs have different impacts on different teams. Some teams, all 4 players very familiar with all possible rotations and positioning, so an IGL is not heavily leaded. But if Kapahalo is the type of player that has a very strong, resounding voice on the team, his teammates might just have gotten used to, Kapahalo leading everything with like a iron fist, so to say. And which is not a problem, but when you don't have that IGL playing, you're more unprepared and more not as confident with those rotations and positionings. As Game Lord down to 1. Interesting edge position. He did get that circle shift though, so he could chill for now.
Golden Esports. Barry is knocked, but they do have the run on Uncanny from a distance, who are yet to make their entry point into this circle. Real Tiger Line have been on this Potato Hill location for quite a while. They picked up a knock on and a kill onto one of the Eastern Stars players, but now they're being breached by Golden Esports. Nice disengagement by Marcio. Steps it back a bit. 2 elimination points so far for the UK side. Now they're going to look for more. IU says, hi Golden Esports, we're here. You think you can breach us? Not today. There could be a bit of a third party from La Familia. Can't see the Portuguese side of Golden Esports surviving for much too longer. I think it's just Faria that's left alive as grenades rain down. It's the end of Golden Esports.
Real Tiger 9's adjustments just 2 circles ago, paying them heavily in favor. That adjustment is leading them to that position where they're able to comfortably gatekeep these teams and not be too worried about multiple teams pressing in on them. On the northern side of things, we have Glor still in play, and we have 4 Romanian men, the team that took over the Potato Hill. You see, in this position, just how difficult it can be to hold this position down. They have multiple smokes down, trying to figure out where to go in next. They won't manage to defend successfully, but as they drive in, there's still teams behind and around them. Chasmok Gaming being one of the teams right next to them.
There's also a pocket of a fight between YMCA and Big. Big has 1 player knocked. YMCA does have a player down, so it's technically, for the time being, a 3v3. Eastern Stars, they may be down to a duo, but don't discredit what that duo can do. Doran, the newest member of Eastern Stars, has genuinely impressed me on how well he's been able to fit in. Octavian, the old guard, the old faithful, might be able to do something, but as the Blue Zone ravishes Doran, that's going to be the end of Eastern Stars. Real Tiger 9, I believe that's the case, picking up the rest of Eastern Stars.
We get another circle shift towards the north, so teams that we were looking at earlier, 4 Romanian men, Real Tiger 9. Golden, if they're still left in this lobby, they all got to push up north. Okay, so Golden was taken out. So here, Chasmok Gaming, which is soon about to be eliminated. Yep, 4 Romanian men right there. I mean, they took a break yesterday. They're still looking hot today. They just extinguished the likes of Chasmok Gaming, a really strong team as well. And 4 Romanian men, they'll control that high ground with 4 players alive.
Lower. Full squad. Edge of circle. They send 2 players in, keep 2 in the back line. That's great on this hillside. It's a very tricky hill to play around for the end circle, because there's very little hard cover, and if you're hanging on the side, you can get punished by both the high ground and the low ground. 4 Romanian men trying to protect it against Real Tiger 9. Unfortunately, a knock in the hands of Rana. gonna hurt them favorably. They do still have the 3 players up for their side. Big, on the other hand, they've been rather quiet in this game so far. We haven't really seen the sparkle from the German side in comparison to what we normally see, but maybe that's a good thing. You highlighted how their weak spots is getting into the final moments of the game where it's different in this first game of the day. A bit of patience is going a long way for them.
Yeah, and with so much action happening on the screen, there's a good chance Big might actually have quite a few eliminations where we just haven't seen it yet. As for Romanian men taking that advanced positioning, getting in front of the Real Tiger 9, but using a nice spread and smokes. It comes down to a 1v1. If Redox wins it, oh, Real Tiger 9! Okay.
Oh.
All right, so I was comparing the group that didn't play yesterday. I mentioned the 3 big teams, and then I mentioned Real Tiger 9 also didn't play, but not as big as a team. Well, they just eliminated the 4 Romanian men, and they're gonna get that full reset. That was a very close fight, back and forth.
Yes and no. It technically was close, but it also wasn't as close as it looked. Redox Spot was left on his own. It was 1v4, and he took down 3 of the Real Tiger 9 players. Shouldn't have really been put down to that point. Either way, the 1v1 went in the favor of Real Tiger 9. Victor still holding on as the last player of Game Lord. Uncanny under a lot of pressure. Victor stands up. He gets spotted out. That's going to be one of the Uncanny players finishing him off. Big! Looking to go big in part of the game. That's a lovely nade by Mazzaro.
Beautiful grenade right there. He takes out one, knocks another. And yeah, Big is just raining havoc onto the Glor side. And Big's played this zone before. We saw just maybe last week a circle end exactly here. The hillside that wraps around the edge left to right. Teams are very comfortable with this type of zone now. But Real Tiger 9, man. That adjustment that was made 4 circles ago, Imperium, that we both pointed out, that we both loved, they have a firm understanding of that adjustment and just how it could play into the rest of the map. And they're even having one off-angle player to cut in from the north and the east side. Yeah, very perfect. That player, though, has to make sure he plays his role correctly. That position is a very special position, which requires, you know, special set of skills for an individual player to make it super effective. So hopefully Septives knows how to play those off angles, and he relies more on the rest of his team to find the info and get the openings, and not for him to start everything and drawing the attention to himself.
Let's see if he can channel his inner Liam Neeson and hold on to a particular set of skills to allow the rest of his team to take this chicken dinner away from his opponents. Aspire tries to push in and is going to go down. Beast gets knocked out by Septus. That's wonderful work by me. It's going to respond extremely quickly. You bit off more than you could chew, Septus. And with another one of his players knocked down, Premix is going for the revive. At the end of the day, that's just allowing Big to reset, get their own revive, stay back up as a 3-person team.
That was exactly the play I was not looking for a player playing in Septive's positioning and role. I said he needs to support his teammates at the top. He does not need to be the playmaker in that position. He's the anchor off angle to slow down a team if his teammates at the north side need the help to breach in. I mean, you get a knock like that, far wrapping, and then what? Most likely that team will trade you back.
Exactly.
We're not talking about PMCO level teams. This is big. This is like experienced teams. They will punish you for that, and they get the revive anyways, and you are not the hero of the story. We are being quite critical right now, but that was the one exact thing that I was hoping not to see, and that is exactly how they played it out. But you learn from the mistakes. Hopefully, Septives will look back on that play and learn something from it. But let's get back to this game. Big, doing big things right now. 12 eliminations, 3 up, a 3v2v1, and with Big getting a knock onto the Uncanny member, it's a 3v1v1. Premixed, he's got that MG3 though, and with players snaking around in the grass, he could definitely cut them all down. He knows where Mazzaro is. He's trying to get more information. I like this play. He's waiting for maybe the Uncanny to knock one before he reveals his position, but Uncanny actually just forced back into the heal zone. You do what you can. Premixed 1v3. He's got to make his moves.
Probably not going to be the case, and that's going to be a chicken dinner coming out for a big hell of a lot of eliminations, covering the low ground. Job done with the chicken dinner.
If you guys recall on stream, in a very similar zone, probably exactly where it ended, we talked about how on that sprawling hillside, the low ground is shaped in a way where they actually get the advantage. The team that won last time also came from the low ground. If I remember correctly, it was a team from the doghouses, right? That worked their way up to the high ground. But with that type of elevation, you want to stay on the lower side of things. And Big worked their side. Actually, that was the same match where I criticized Big for not taking the doghouse position. And the team that took it ended up winning the match. This time around, wasn't the same exact circle, but they utilized that low ground beautifully well. And Big came out on top. I think that's maybe the third or fourth chicken dinner now for Big, and that's a huge improvement in terms of their late game and their ability to close out games.
Yeah, and for me, what was a bit of a fear in how they were maybe a little bit slow to react to kind of phase 2, phase 3, right? I think they were a lot better come the next shift of phase 4, where they set themselves up in a position a lot quicker and allowed them to really play around their information and the teams coming towards them. A bit of a positive was that a lot of teams in phase 2, I think it was phase 2,
yeah,
committed to the very south side of the mainland, right?
Yeah.
So that did technically make it a good bit easier for Big in the later stage of the game to control the area, because a lot of the action came from the southern side.
Yeah.
But you know what? Does that really matter? Because they didn't know that. They were never to know that. They still put themselves in a great position after the midpoint of the game to clean it up, and they didn't overstep their mark. It was a clean finish.
Well, I think what it really comes down to is their comms, right? If they said something along the lines of, you guys remember the circle, right? When it shifted onto this potato hillside. We messed up last time by taking the school apartments and forcing ourselves to fight a team hard gatekeeping us, right? If this time around they adjusted and being like, let's not commit to a stuck low ground position like the school apartments. Let's actually take a position right now on the hillside where we have an ability to set up and fight our way into the rest of the hillside more easily. And I mean, based on how that match played out, I think that's exactly what they did, right? They were south of Chasmot Gaming. Chasmot Gaming was sandwiched in between the four Romanian men on top of Potato Hill, and they were sandwiched between the big side that was on that low ground, already positioned themselves on the hill. So that adjustment right there, learning game after game. Maybe they watched that VOD back and, you know, they heard our criticisms as well. Maybe I'm stretching that a little bit too far. Who knows, though? But Big, they're learning very well on their own right now, and they are improving quite drastically when it comes to the late game.
Yeah, 110%. Can't argue with that at all. It's exciting to see, to say the least. We're going to go to a bit of a break. Highlights coming up on your screens, followed by the match rankings of Game 1. Then we'll be heading into Game 2 of the day. So don't go away. See you all in a few minutes. Hello, hi there. Thank you for joining us. The PMECT, the penultimate day, and the first game of the penultimate day has finished, and it was won pretty confidently, pretty cleanly, as we talked about today, by the one and only Big.
Yeah, Big stuck to their classic game of controlling the edge side and working their way in, but with adjustments made over the course of the 3 weeks, right? We've seen them do that from the beginning, and they realized they had a huge mistake and learning curve to do when it came to the late game. Now, we're seeing them do the same strategy, but adapted it in a style where it can work out into the late game. So really well done by Big. Real Tiger 9, by the way, towards that late game, we were a bit critical, but I would want to say they played the beginning stages all the way up till the end very well. This is Real Tiger 9 we're talking about. A team that's been, you know, struggling here and there. They haven't had too great of a game. Their counterpart, V100, is the team from their community that's been really popping off, but it's really good to see Real Tiger 9 make some, you know, very cognitive adjustments and having it play out in their favor. Of course, they still need to clean up their late game just a little bit, but it's progress.
Yeah, 110%. Absolute progress. Let's have a look at the match rankings of that first game so we can really go through the numbers. 11 eliminations for Real Tiger 9 does speak for itself, and it complements what you just highlighted about them. Uncanny, I definitely see there was a bit of a missed opportunity for them with only one elimination point. I feel like even though they were kind of on that side of the hill where it's risky, I really believe they could have done a bit more towards the late stages of the game to pick up a few more elimination points and put the likes of Real Tiger or even Big under a little bit more pressure.
Yeah, so Uncanny, we've seen this before out of Uncanny. When they do really well, it's usually in the form of lower eliminations and higher placements. So it's kind of like they're rotating and positioning themselves in the right way to get those higher placements. But their teamwork and synergy and confidence and knowing how to control more of the circle and dominate and fight their way in still needs work. But one thing at a time, right? Figure out how do we get our rotations in to get us into the late game. And then once we get there, we'll figure out what mistakes we're making with our players in terms of engagements and synergy. But Chasmot Gaming in 4th place overall, I want you to take a good look at that. They've come in 4th place overall with only 1 placement point. That means they went out considerably earlier than many of the other teams. But because they're a team that's very experienced and is not scared to take fights, and they know how to, they can still end up 4th overall with like barely any placement points.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Game Lord on the tiny bit of an opposite scale, where Victor was able to stay alive to the point of getting 6 placement points, means there's 9 for Game Lord. That's 19 in one game for the French community. And when you look at their closest rivals, for Romanian men, 14 points in the first game. So a continue, you know, step up for, not step up, but a continue increase in the gap between France and Romania. Germany was overall the biggest winners. Unfortunately, Fear the Flame, new name, same unfortunate mistakes in terms of just looking lost. They only got 1 point, but it was still 29 in total for the German community. Game by game, technically, they're getting closer to Romania.
Yeah, they are technically getting closer. So we have 3 more matches today, and we have 1 day left.
Oh, yes.
Every game is going to be very pivotal at this point. I mean, leading up to this stage, every day, every game matters. But towards the late game, or towards the end of a tournament, that's where the mentality also kind of sets in, right?
Yep.
If the team starts catching up, how do they feel? Do they feel more energized to press even harder? Would that make them, you know, a little bit too overzealous and cause the team to make mistakes? And on the opposite end, if you're starting to feel like a team might pass you up, how are you going to react to that as a team? Are you going to start playing more passive and safe so you don't, you know, venture out to make mistakes? But is that ultimately going to lead the team to playing too passive, right? So towards the end stages of a tournament, each game is even more important because it will heavily affect the ways the teams and the players react to the situation.
And it's perfectly natural. It's just how aware you are of it as a player, as a team. The more aware you are of it, the more you're able to shape the impact, shape the control, and essentially turn it into a positive, right? Use it as a way to kind of motivate yourself. Use it as a way to, at the end of the day, succeed. There's no guarantees, but that's the way I look at it, at least. Game 2, we do see a guaranteed playing path upon us. Going for the north, down towards the southeast. A little bit tricky if you want to get towards the southwest side of the map, but it's great for Fear the Flame, great for Uncanny, and great for the likes of the 100.
Very good playing path for most of the teams. Might see some teams struggle just a little bit as Lemniscate. Okay, we've seen this before, actually. Lemniscate drop here with Glor. And what we haven't seen, though, is these two teams actually taking a proactive engagement with one another. Both of these teams usually kind of drop here, and it's a stalemate with maybe one player getting caught out, and then the other team doesn't press the advantage to finish out, the other enemy players, but they just continue to keep looting a little bit, and then they leave. So neither team really coming in here with a very good set plan to engage upon each other, which I don't like. I feel like this kind of just wastes time for both teams. At least one of the teams needs to be here with a more proactive mindset. And the first circle does pop on up. We are going towards that eastern side of the map, southeastern side, might I add, with a little bit of the water and those islands in play. We'll see on the second circle shift just what happens. So, but yeah, this 4v4 Imperium, it's not looking like any team really has a clear idea of what to do. For example, Glor, they could isolate that one player that's next to them. They could go around the backside of those buildings and yeah, they could isolate a player and do something, but the Glor members have been sitting in the same positions, the same compound, the entirety that we have been watching this fight. So they're just all relying on the other team to make a mistake so they can do something. That's the problem, right? We talked about it, I believe, with what team was it? It might have actually been the Real Tiger 9. We were saying, like, in those Picado Picado fights, they need to be more proactive. They can't just sit around and rely on the other enemy team to make a mistake and give them the opening. And that's kind of looking like what Lemniscate and Glor are both doing. They're just waiting for, you give us an easy opening and we'll maybe try and do something.
Freezy on the roof on his own. To me, he's a catalyst for Lemniscate really putting a massive dent in Glor's ability to come out on top. It's important that he doesn't get knocked. If he gets knocked, it goes horribly wrong, and honestly, I'd recommend the rest of Lemniscate to disengage if that's the case. But if he can be the right distraction point, the right bait play, where the rest of the team are able to kind of swoop in on a bit more of a side angle or even a bit more of a direct engagement, then that'll be a cleanly executed engagement for Freezy. But looks like he's overall disengaging away. I don't disagree with that. He has zero vest, zero helmet. He recognizes that he's as light as a feather in terms of protection. He's better off not challenging for the fight, and the teammate picks him up. I say that's sensible play for Lemniscate. This is quite tough for them. Their backs overall in today and even tomorrow's games are against the wall because they're the sole Greek representatives. So they need to get as many points as they can to try as much as possible to hold off the likes of UK and Spain.
Yeah, my question is, why drop there in the first place then, right? If you're going to just end up disengaging.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, like, why drop there in the first place? Like, the way they dropped is they dropped around the edges of the city too. They didn't drop trying to control one side and then, looting it up and then taking the fight. They're just dropping on the outskirts and just forced to not get much loot. You saw that one player with like barely, not even a vest, and then they just run away. So, like, what's the plan? What's the goal? That's my question to Lemniscate. You always got to have one of those in mind whenever doing anything throughout the duration of a match. So, taking a look at Rex, though, getting into a fight with Golden. Looks like Golden's going to be backing up here.
Golden have suffered one casualty, so I expect at least gotten a bit of a stranglehold. Portugal against Spain. Yes, they're neighbours in geographical sense, but they're certainly not neighbours in the world of PUBG Mobile. They'll take shots if they have the chance. Power Grid is the home of Golden Esports. They have been able to now disengage. They'll take the loss of what was one player and continue on this game as a trio.
Technically, they are neighbors because they're next to each other during that fight, but
oh, come on, man. Come on.
They're not friendly. Go. They're not friendly neighbors.
Fair.
I'm sure people have had neighbors that, you want to go over and, like, strangle them or, like, at least egg their house or something.
you trying to tell us something, Zute? Have you strangled your neighbor?
No, never. I
sure?
would never be the type. No, I will say I've watched Netflix shows where neighbors aren't the friendliest of terms. So you can be neighbors, but not friendly. Anyhow, back onto the map as we take a look at how the teams have adjusted so far. We got La Familia holding a nice little high ground off-center location. Eastern Stars sticking to their mountaintop sides of Impala. Very good position as well. The 100. That's a cool little split. I don't know if they're just still looting or if they set up that split to specifically catch off rotations. So that one's interesting to see. Chasmot Gaming still in the blue. Far Eastern Circle, I get it. No real priority to get anywhere center. Let's just see where the shift goes before we decide to do what we want to do.
Yeah. It's worked for Chasmac in other games. They'll know what they are dealing with when it comes to entering the edge of the circle in phase 2. Or should I even say not knowing what they're dealing with in terms of not having the information, but they'll take their time sending in. I like that spread from the 100. I would argue if they're now repositioning to in some way join together, it's a little bit late into this phase 1 blue zone closing in. Maybe that's me being harsh, but I'm more looking at a more competitive situation where you might have 4 to 5 to 6 other teams around them where that will look to maybe rotate a bit quicker towards the edge of this phase 1, especially on the northern side. They could get caught out. In this game, for now, it seems to be working out.
Poor remaining man, Doobie driving that vehicle into the danger zone.
Ah, nice.
He will be escaping that one though, finding cover. La Familia, see, like this. I like this type of splits in Circle 1 of Myanmar.
Exactly.
These are rotational catching off. I don't know a good term for it, but they plan this split in a way where they could funnel players in between two different positions, where they could take shots from both their flank and where they're driving towards, and you can see right here working out perfectly. They kind of drive the traffic or push the traffic towards a certain way by one player starting the initial fire, and then that player or that enemy driver ends up driving into their teammate, which receives more fire, and then they can pick up some eliminations that way. So I like that right there by the La Familia team. We don't see it too often in Myanmar actually, but La Familia taking advantage of this circle and their initial drop spot, setting a nice little beautiful split there.
Rotational trap, I think, is probably the best term to use for that. Okay. You're dead right. Yeah, rotational trap. And it seemed to be the same for the 100 against LMV. So you asked the question if it was like a little bit of an intentional split. I would say yeah, and it's worked out. Phase 2. I don't want to say it's also working out, but I do have to point out the two islands. They're still in the circle.
Yeah.
They're confidently still in the circle. Oh, stay calm, Imperium. Stay calm. Slow down. It's only phase 2. But I'm not going to lie. I'm getting a little bit excited, man. I'm getting a little bit damn excited.
I would love to see, just because just because they were there for it, right? It'd be so funny to see one of the players of the Eastern Stars just rotate now over to that island. just because they were there. They were playing in the tournament where it just so happened, right? So maybe they'll send one over. Most likely not, but it'd be funny if they do. Big.
But here's the thing.
Coming in.
Here's the thing,
Yeah.
man. Like, you wouldn't really have anything to lose, because if it doesn't work out, fair enough. One, you've only lost one player, and two, you tried something. Two, if it does work out, it's like the biggest 9,000 IQ brain play ever, right? So in my eyes, yeah, do that. You're dead right.
Or Romanian men engaging on YMCA. YMCA definitely struggling here in this fight. 3 of their players go down. It's just all down left to Deso, but he's getting chased down by that player of Redox, and he realizes he can't outrun the buggy. So he's going to stop and try and take some shots back to push him away. But in reality, for Romanian men, it's just slowing down this guy's rotation so they could come in and clean up the entirety of YMCA. Unless Deso hits a nice nade, which might buy him a bit more time.
Doesn't quite connect. Sarah was knocked. I don't know exactly how he was knocked, but Deso looking for at least one elimination point before his inevitable doom. Cooks up a second nade. That one's a lot better. Fortunately, goes a little bit too far. Nades in this kind of area are always quite tricky because the way you send over is really inconsistent, and how variable. You just don't really have the same kind of information. So I don't mind, and I understand why Deso didn't really connect any of the nades.
Also, with that area of the map, you're not as familiar as just how deep does that dip right across from me drops, right? He can kind of run up over the top to take a peek, but you see in the distance there's higher hillsides where he would get shot at by the 4 remaining players. So he can't even venture over to get that clear information. So
damn,
that's okay. Well, you tried. You tried, Ethereum. I mean, this one's still a really fun circle. A lot of flat, open terrains, and you got that, that huge chasm dip just straight down the middle on that roadside that could come into play. And you got some nice compounds. Real Tiger 9's at one of the very good compounds left in this zone. Rex getting into a fight with none other than Big. Big, once again, continually engaging. By the way, Big was down to 3 when I saw the Rex team nearby. So Big is actually taking a 3v4 because they want to. And it seems like it's working out for them for now.
I love it. It's such a simple thing to say, because they want to. And that is honestly a big component to why some of the best teams in the world or across different regions are the best teams in those regions, because they do what they want. Yes, they'll be aware of other teams around them. They'll do what they want, and they'll do it with confidence. And Big are one of those teams. Bravos, on the other hand, might not be so confident of surviving in this fight. As 4 Romanian men, another very confident team, have 3 eliminations and potentially looking for 4 and 5 if they can finish off Bravos. Make that a 6th. There's also the last player, YMCA, close by, but he's staying absolutely dead quiet as Due sends it in, but he goes in on his own, and he pays the ultimate price.
Yeah, Doobie right now, lucky that there were a lot of smokes down, so he's able to survive in the smokes. But yeah, he sent it in by himself. He's gonna easily stop short on top of this hillside right here that we see Sarah, and just lob some nades or do some peeks, add some pressure, but he full sent it as a solo. And Doobie actually gets knocked and thirsted. So 4 Romanian men losing a player in a very, very amateurish way.
Yeah, unnecessary.
Yeah. That was an amateur mistake, especially for a team like the 4 Romanian men. I guess they won the fight, but I'm not even impressed or happy for them, because I expect more, and that was not it.
Call it maybe just the panic of wanting to close the fight out as quickly as possible. But honestly, even I don't have an excuse for that, and I'm fully in agreement with you. I love how we're like quite harsh in different areas of how teams play, and we have our kind of principles of wanting teams to have a certain standard of gameplay in different aspects, and it's just great to see when and hear when you're harsh in that way and kind of be like, yeah, I can get behind that, Zute. I can get behind it. The next phase is about to pop up. So I'm curious on where it goes, and it goes to the northeastern side of the map.
Oh, man. I remember when I played comp and we would complain about these hardships. But man, watching it happen, it's a lot less stressful. If anything, I'm like, ooh, this is fun. This is going to be interesting. By the way, big one there, 3v4 with respect. Big on that far southwest side, far away from that circle shift now. They took that engagement and closed it out with a man down.
Lemniscate. 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 What are you doing? You're going into that building as if you know there's just one player, as if you're confident there's just one player. Not only is this Eastern Stars' home, but secondly, you got to know that they have players angled in many different areas of the compound of that city. Therefore, they're going to have that covered. They're going to have that return of fire. And that was a bit of a silly mistake from Lemniscate. I think they still have one player up. They do indeed. But I'm sure Eastern Stars will get rid of them quick enough.
A little bit of a miscommunication there, almost running into a teammate's grenade. But now that the Eastern Stars are prepped and set for this push, I do imagine they will be proactive and take that team out that's right underneath them. Lemniscate with only 2 players? No, 3 players.
Oh, wow. Okay, they did get the revive.
Now down to 2 with that grenade opening. And the push is surely going to happen now.
Shorty, you can't be serious. I am, and don't call me Shorty. Versace, nothing he can do. Down he goes in Eastern Stars. They'll find it. The one question I was actually about to ask you as it happens that we're in this area of the map as La Familia finishes off Road Tiger 9 was who was going to be the first team to commit to this roadside, right? Yep. If you commit too early, in my opinion, you pay the price because you're going to have teams around you. Of course, if you leave it too late, you're kind of either going in blind or you're going in towards a team that already have a solidified position. So it is quite tricky.
Right. Yeah, to just break down the formula of when you want to commit to that real quick is, yeah, go too early. Another team can pressure you in without that team worrying about being third party. You need to time it just perfectly enough, just like how Mazzaro's trying to time these grenades. I want to see how this 1v1 goes down. The big team.
Oh my god.
Getting that
oh my god, Mazzaro! Oh. Mazzaro! Mazzaro! Oh my god, Mazzaro! What a firecracker! Step up, stand up! He gets his 3 big! Mazzaro! I know I just popped my tits, but Jesus Christ! What a play!
That was a 1v3, but that was a beautifully done 1v3 by Mazzaro. That's going on his Instagram, by the way. Check him out on Instagram. Guy posts some pretty sick clips, and that was one for the books. Mazzaro, down to a solo, but representing big how they should be represented. They go down fighting, and he took down Chasmok Gaming. By the way, it wasn't just like some other team in the lobby. He took down Chasmok Gaming 1v3.
My lord. I don't know if I can recover. He goes down in the end, but what a valiant effort. Romania going up against Romania. And it's going to be won by Eastern Stars with a little bit of third-party help by Glore. Okay, you take those. Don't always require them. But it's definitely a positive. La Familia, the sole Italian representatives, up to 5 elimination points in this Miramar game. They have that stranglehold of a position by the side of the road. Going to be able to use the dips to their advantage. It wasn't quite won by Big, by the way, when they took the fight against Respect earlier on. As Salazar, the last player standing, does eventually go down at the hands of Game Lord.
La Familia holding down this roadside compound quite well. Game Lord's going to be the next team that needs to breach on in. They could circumvent them, but that will just put Game Lord in a position later on where they can be easily taken advantage of. So they're going to they should elect to take this fight now rather than just try and survive one more circle. And it is looking like Game Lord have figured out an angle that they could use. Narvello with the grenade. Oh, this one's going to be huge. Oh, I think it bounced off. Oh, that's unlucky right there. It bounced off those. I don't even know what those things are sticking out of the ground. But he's got more grenades. So he's got more chances to throw this one in. That one connects and does some damage. He's looking for at least one knock, though, before the rest of his team can push on in. And he's got a lot of grenades, a lot of util being thrown out. I would argue maybe be a little bit more patient with some of them and really figure out if you're throwing those for connecting and not just throwing them just cuz.
Yeah, exactly. I think Game Lord knows what they're doing. But time is ticking on this phase 5. And Narvello can only deal with that blue zone for so long. See the smokes being thrown across the road by Akashi to try and give some kind of entry point. But you need to swap those smokes for guns. For bullets. The pressure needs to be put on board. Evil Boy just find Narvello. Akashi now the last player up for Game Lord in a 1v3 against La Familia. Could be a bit of a third party by either the 100. I think that's the case. Yes, from behind, the 100 cleans up Game Lord.
I feel like Game Lord messed that up, man. From those two different angles with the amount of grenades they had, that should have been an easy wipe. Definitely not patient enough with those grenades. Maybe they felt too pressurized by the blue zone, but that's not like the Game Lord that we're used to seeing. So I think that's that right there is something that they will themselves be disappointed in and know that they should have played that way better. Uncanny, Papa trying to hide in that crevice. He will get taken down by the Fear the Flame team, previously known as LMV. Next circle shifts on up. It is going towards that northeastern side, so away from the roadside of the La Familia.
Golden Esports? I've noticed a slightly consistent improvement on their performances overall. Fortunately, their time is finished in this Miramar game as we are down to our final 4. La Familia, the 100, Eastern Stars, and the side of Fear, the Flame.
Eastern Stars doing a little bit of scouting here. Keep in mind, this is the team that decided to just control Impala on the edge of the circle. They didn't elect to control a more central location or those giant hilltop sides. So that shows to me Eastern Stars are very comfortable and familiar with this zone, and they exactly know their game plan, controlling the edge of Impala and which positions that will lead them to for the rest of the match, regardless of where the zone shifts. That is a very solid display of a team having a set game plan, knowing exactly what to do, and having all of their options open. Of course, the late game is always a different story in terms of how well they can execute it. But it is going well, as they should get that revive, and La Familia down to 1 shouldn't be too big of a threat for the Eastern Stars.
Yeah, but I have to be critical of Eastern Stars, specifically Doran. He was rocking around in a buggy for a good 10-15 seconds minimum, just driving around. Sorry, but what are you doing? What are you providing for your team at that point? The focus needs to be on shutting down La Familia in that moment. We move over to Fear the Flame, going up against the 100. Just 2 players left, Goldie and Perks. This could be a really dynamic duo, by the way, when it comes to towards the tail end of 2022 PUBG Mobile Esports. Perks is the kind of player that needs that aggressive support, and I really think Goldie, he's a little bit less experienced, but I think he has a lot of strength and maturity about how he plays the game, and he could really support Perks, and a lot of success could come throughout this year. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. Eastern Stars did clean up La Familia, though.
Eastern Stars controlling more of the zone here. Comes down to a 4v4v2. Oh, and the 100 and Eastern Stars get the circle. That's actually perfect, because we might just see a 4v4 end game. Of course, Fear the Flame still in the match. Can they get into the circle? The Perks with some absolutely precise shots, nailing down that 100 player. And ooh, how many grenades does he have? I want to see him not make the same mistake as the Game Lord team.
2.
Be a little bit more patient if you don't have too
3.
much.
That's 3 nades he's thrown out. He has a molly. Molly being thrown at too. And I hate to say it, I think they're blind. They're blind utility, unfortunately. However, he does swap out for the gun, and he's not blind on that one. Finds Will, the 100. They were too clustered up. They were two together, two stuck in their own little corner. And then both sides punishing them from a distance. However, Perks, he doesn't care who it is. Sees a body, he'll take shots on that body. Finds a player from Eastern Stars as he crawling away, trying to get revived by his teammate. Octavian is able to finish off one of the Fear the Flame players. Got Perks left on his own. Octavian doing a great job of suppressing the two remaining teams around him. He's going to swing around while Perks is able to get full make hit off. Nice. He's not able to move around in time. That's great play by Octavian.
I see, boss. Last one up. I think it's pretty much done for. Bozzy goes down. Very nice knock right there. Octavian, though, should find that angle as soon as that smoke wears out. And he realizes it. And there we go. Nicely cleaned out by the Eastern Stars. So, that's something to be learned. If you're a team that, you know, controls the Impala area, like maybe you're a team that drops Impala, and you see a circle towards the eastern side, and it's not ending in Impala necessarily, but Eastern Stars have just displayed a showcase of their game plan from the Impala area. If we could keep teams out of Impala, we could control the edge side on that eastern side, and there's some dips, there's some sight lines that they use to bound from one location to another to close out the rest of the game, even if it shifts more to the north, more to the south. So that is like a study case for teams that might want to use that Impala strategy. And even if you don't initially control Impala, right, you could take that note page from the Eastern Stars and be like, okay, in this type of circle from where we're rotating, maybe you're rotating in from the southeast, we're going to take a fight with a team in Impala. We're going to try and eliminate that team. And if we do, afterwards, we do exactly what the Eastern Stars did. So Eastern Stars doing a really good game right there.
I think that's the kind of game that I really would love to see screenshots of every circle shift and kind of, or every position Eastern Stars were in on each circle shift, right? Because I think it would paint a much bigger picture of what you are clearly highlighting and how they were able to execute that game. Like I said, the only mistake was when Doran was kind of driving around when... As much as he was driving around initially to have the anchor point, he then started driving around again and again. And yeah, okay, they end up winning the fight against La Familia. But like I pointed out with another team, that works here, but in a more competitive setting against more competitive teams, that might not work as easily, right? Or you might get punished for that. So just something slightly to point out against that moment in Eastern Stars.
I think Doran would have been ready to adjust, though. Like, he's confident enough in his team that his team will let him know with enough time when he needs to come back and join them. Like, if it goes bad for whatever reason. But I think Eastern Stars, in that situation, adapting to what was happening, they were like, no, we're good. Like, one of our players is knocked, but we see the angles we control. We know how difficult it is for that team to press over the hilltop side. Like, you're good. Right, and I'm pretty sure Doran and his comms were probably like, do you need me to come back? And the rest of the team was like, no. Get our anchor point in, create some spacing, create some noise, so we don't get third party by a different team. We got this under control. Right? Okay. So it all really comes down to the comms at the end of the day. Like, this is why it's so, as a competitive player myself, and I see a lot of criticism of certain teams, certain players, from casters, from the audience. And the biggest thing I've learned over time is you need to know what the comms are like. Like, if this is what the team is trying to do and trying to practice and it goes wrong, then they're not doing anything wrong because they know what they want to focus on and improve on. So you can't be an outsider saying, like, what is this team doing? They're so bad. And in this case, it's like, what is Doran doing? Why is he driving around in circles? But if the comms were literally, Doran, we got this. Create our spacing for us. We'll let you know if we need you. Then... that's a perfectly executed play.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well said. I was just I can't really argue that because it's a very valid perspective. Let's take it for a break. highlights in front of us, followed by the match rankings of Game 2. Then we'll be going on to Game 3 in Sandhawk. Don't go away. See you all in a few. PMECT, the penultimate day. We're 2 games in, and I've got one word for you, Zute.
Yeah.
Think you can guess what it is? It's Mazzaro.
Mazzaro?
Arrow. Just Mazzaro.
Yeah,
Mazzaro.
So Eastern, real quick nod to Eastern Stars who, secured that game. But yeah, I think the highlight play was Mazzaro, which, by the way, he has an Instagram. If you don't have his Instagram, he posted the play that that had Imperium's tits pop off. I think those were the words he used. I've no more tits. They popped off. I can't find them. Yeah, so check out Imperium and I's social too. If you're following Imperium or I, we just reposted Mazzaro's story, and so from there you can find Mazzaro's post, that highlight moment. Definitely amazing to see. And taking a look at the match rankings, I just realized at the end of that game, by the way, I didn't have my hat on. And I think it was after Mazzaro did that my hat flew off.
Really?
And I forgot to put it back on. Yeah, so I have the hat back on now. But my hair was all over the place, like 5-10 minutes ago on broadcast, and that's no thanks to Mazzaro with that insane play. But okay.
So wait. So no. So Mazzaro popped my tits off, and he popped your hat off. That's like, if you can do that as a player, you're winning.
Yes, that is what happened. But Eastern Stars, of course, 16 eliminations, not just a regular chicken, but a well-calculated one at that. We already touched on it. They stayed on the very eastern tip side of that circle in Impala, and they knew exactly what they were doing. The 100 coming in pretty strong, mostly through like getting the circles, because it kept shifting up north to them, and they didn't have to move around as much, which is why they only had 3 eliminations. But a good game for them nonetheless. And La Familia, okay. Good. Very good out of the Italian side with those 14 points, Imperial.
Yeah, not bad. But I do want to highlight specifically the German community. 13-9, 22 points. It's much needed once again when you look at the overall standings coming in today's games. France about 100 points ahead of Romania. Romania about 100 points ahead of Germany. I genuinely want all of those 3 teams to get closer together. So, not that I don't want France to do well, but I kind of don't want them to do that well, because that means that the likes of Germany and Romania are more than likely getting closer. Eastern Stars getting 31 points, followed by 4 Romanian men with 8. That's 39 in one game. That's a big chunk of France's lead taken away in one game. So I want to see that kind of continue for the Romanian community. And Germany, a little bit similar, obviously not as much, but again, 22 points, it's a big plus.
Yeah, so at the start of the broadcast, we talked about that 100-point gap, right? Which is divided between 2 teams. So 50 points for the day for each team. And in 4 games, if you think about 50 points, that's not that much when you see a team like Eastern Stars just get 31 points in one game. They only need 20 points in the other 3 matches. And when you're a good team, if you have a good day, your team by yourself could get 70.
For sure.
And if your counterparts could have a 40-point day, which isn't even asking for too much, right?
Yeah.
That's more than 100 points right there. But let's go into Sandhawk. This is the map. This is the game where we're at that point in the day where a lot of things could get turned upside down. And I think we've seen a trend of it happen. From Miramar into Sandhawk, the results of the match from Miramar very rarely impact the results of Sandhawk. It's almost like a backwards type of style game. But Big, they usually drop Cam Bravo and take a fight with Real Tiger 9. I feel like with that playing path, they feel like it's a bit far to drop in Camp Bravo. So they're taking a hot drop fight with another team down south in another part of the map.
Oh, yeah, uncanny. Big have dropped here before. Okay. If you remember, I think with Uncanny and another team. So this is it's not massively uncommon, but it is rare, and I think you are very much right with that playing path. They didn't think it was as comfortable to try and drop in Camp Bravo, so Camp Charlie is the place to be for them, and Swave. He's a little bit on his own for the time being. Has to be careful. Tracking the audio of the footsteps is going to be very important. Swave opens the door, gets a knock on the Spieler, confirms that elimination point as quickly as possible. Body advantage now in the hands of Big, followed by a second knock on the Papa Joker. He's not. Oh my god. Okay. Jesus me. God. Have some mercy on them.
I know TPP advantage is a thing, right? But if you just have the wherewithal of knowing where that player might peek you from TPP, you actually kind of have the advantage because you're moving. And when that player peeks out, he kind of has to track your movement as he peeks out to shoot you. And you could stutter step back to the left. You could keep swinging out wide. It's a 50-50 as far as where that player has to track you. But if you're so aware of where the enemy might be TPP, you just have your crosshair trained on that spot where he's going to peek you from. And that's exactly what we saw there. He had the TPP advantage. He knew where the enemy was. But the player from Big had the pre-fire ready, had the wherewithal, and having that pre-aim ready, and just absolutely melted that player.
But was it also a case where that last player from Uncanny, he exposed his whole body rather than just his head? As in, surely he should have peeked as opposed to moved his whole body to the right. That technically would have made it a lot easier for me to connect those shots with Uzi, right?
It would have made it a little bit harder, but realistically, that in theory, it sounds like that's more correct, right? Take a slight angle peek. But that's more when it's like a mid-distance, because the issue with that is you'd actually have to get in the game and test it out for yourself, and you'll understand the feeling of it.
That's why I'm asking you. That's why I'm asking you, because you're a former competitive player. So that's why I'm asking. All right.
Yeah, so he would have to be a little bit further spaced out from the wall to do a lean peek like that, because when you lean peek that close to the wall, yes, you could peek out just a little bit. But your player gets kind of stuck on the wall once you unleash, try and get back into it. And it's just also your ability to swing out your aim wider, not your body. The ability for you to swing out your crosshair wider when doing one of those tight peeks, when you're close up hugging the wall, limits how well you can actually shoot the target if they decide to keep wide swinging on you. And just more times often than not, you don't want to do a peek. So that's why you do see, even at the high PMGC levels, Imperium, you see players swinging out when they do those TPP peeks. Because mechanically, it doesn't work that way. But at mid distances, and if you space your body a little bit away from the cover, it can work out. Then those would be like more perfect lean peeks. So just a little bit of, competitive player experience knowledge right there. I will say this is a mobile game with like mobile mechanics that some people might not be as familiar with when it comes to like regular PC or console gaming, right? The mechanics work a little bit differently here.
And that's why, to go, I suppose, a little bit off the specific game, that's kind of why having the likes of you as a former competitive player in a talent situation such as either a caster or an analyst, because you are able to provide the extra level of perspective. And it's why me as a caster and an analyst myself will always respect the player's talent so much more and what they have to deal with, because what I see as a caster is in nowhere near the true situational talent required for that player. I mean, as critical as I can be, it doesn't take away from the respect that I have for all of these players as Golden Esports and Chazmac start to take a fight against each other.
Yeah. So you see that lean peek is perfect because it's longer range, more leeway to control those peaks, and you're not as backed up in terms of movement. If a player's super close up front, close to you, you want to be able to have priority over your movement, not how close and tight your lean peak is. So movement is much more critical in close range, and if you get your body into a lean, you slow yourself down. That's basically what it comes down to.
Exactly.
So Faria here, trying to hold an angle right now, playing a little bit more quiet, and just okay, just peeking into two people right there.
Yeah.
Not much he could have done, even if he lean peeked that or not. So that's another team taken out. Two teams already down on the match of Sandhawk, meaning that this Sandhawk game could be. Oh, wait a second. This is a northwestern circle.
Okay.
I just saw the white line touching the edge of boot camp. That means we're finally getting a northwestern circle. Hopefully we can bring that map feed up in a little bit to see exactly where that circle shifted. I know we got some early action going on. A lot of fights happening as Glor also losing 2 of their players right there. And there we go. Finally, when we don't talk about it, we get it. We got a Northwestern Island finish for the very first time, I would have to say. If my memory serves correct, for the very first time on Sandhawk for the duration of this tournament.
La Familia going for a rotation on the eastern side / now northeastern side of the map. They need to be quite careful because this is phase 2. And I would argue the timing of that rotation is quite late. It all depends on how wide they go from the land on the entry point into that phase 2. If they go very wide, I say cool, that timing is good. But if they go too close, I would say that timing doesn't correlate to where they're positioning that boat inside. Is Fear the Flame defending against Game Lord. Game Lord crashed in on the hard thing, so it technically should be Fear the Flames to win. They only have 2 players left up, Japan and Perks, a dynamic duo. Couple in game, couple out of game as well. First aid being pulled out by Perks. Needs to try and clutch this up. Robs trying to keep the pressure on board. Great play by Perks in Japan, looking to stick together. Revive being pulled out. Will that afford the opportunity? Oh, yep. If you're gonna go for the revive, confirm the kill onto the enemy across the way. And that was just a great play by Robs. He bamboozled them, but that was also off the back of, honestly, not confirming the eliminations, the hands of Fear the Flame.
Yeah, all the info was passed out. He's getting a revive right here. You can peek him.
Damn.
And that was. Are you? Hold on. Are you a CS:GO fan by any chance, Imperium?
I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I do appreciate and I'm aware of the game. But go on.
Okay. So do you know the player Stewie2K?
I've heard of him. Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'll explain it out. Actually, oh my gosh, this Sandhawk game. I mean, I do know we have a very cool circle happening, so maybe that's why there's so much fighting right now. I might have to hold off that story for a second, but it does allude to what that Chasmok gaming player did. Who clutched it, by the way?
No, it was Game Lord. It was Game Lord.
Sorry, Game Lord. Yeah,
it was Robs.
Robs. Okay, Robs clutched that one out. So we'll hold that conversation for a little bit. As Lemniscate, hello? Why would you go prone out open on that side of the hill when you're quite literally fighting the team that was just taking shots at you from that side of the hill?
I don't know. This game is definitely getting quite flustered, I feel. A product of the fact that we haven't really seen a Northwest Island circle in this lobby. I want to reiterate in this lobby, because as much as you can train, you can do scrims and you can have Northwest circles and scrims, when it's in a specific lobby and you haven't really experienced what is arguably a pretty, especially in Sandhawk compared to any of the other maps, it pretty you want to experience it first. I can get why we're getting these kind of flustered situations happen in the first couple of phases.
Yeah, teams not familiar with this circle. As far as with the other teams involved, very well put right here. Chasmok Gaming on that north side in the water. Same with La Familia. So I guess during this lull period, really quickly, so there's a player named Stewie2K from CSGO, and he's notorious for pushing smokes. And the reason why you don't want to push smokes in CSGO is because when you exit the smoke, it's not like in PUBG Mobile where you have clear vision the second you leave the smoke. And in CSGO, even if you're completely out of the smoke, your vision still gets covered by smoke for a half second or so. So that's like pushing smokes, bad idea. But Stewie2K, because all the players are so used to players not pushing smokes, Stewie2K is one of those players that would push smokes and completely catch other players off guard, and they would absolutely rage at him. They would be like, what is this guy doing? He's so stupid. Who does this type of thing? And there's a meme sound that came along with it, where it's Stewie's voice line, and all he says is, "Sup, bitch." And
okay,
Robs, by the way, when he peeked that doorway with the DBS, when the player was trying to get the revive, that's what it reminded me of. He peeked that doorway, shotgunned him in the face, and was like, "Sup, bitch." And what's even better is you saw how he finished them out. He hopped down from the second floor window, dropped square into the doorway in frame, and just sup bitched them again. And that's how Robs took them out 1v2. So
that story, man.
I just had to.
That story.
He peeked. It was beautiful the way he did. He popped through the doorway, boom, and then he dropped down from the roof side, boom. 1v2.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Absolutely love that story. We're also going to see a story unfold right in front of our eyes. The story of Eastern Stars going up against Real Tiger 9. It started with a bit of a run over that resulted in one of the Real Tiger 9 players' captives getting knocked down and finished off. Now the other 3 players, they were able to at least get a counter knock onto Athos to slow Eastern Stars down. Once again, Eastern Stars not playing with their normal IGL Kappa Hala. Going for a wrap around, a side angle, bit of pressure from Doran. It's not a bad call, but it's a little bit too deep. Where's the rest of the team to follow up on that bait? They're nowhere to be seen. Nazgul gets back in towards the... Like, he realizes that if he stays where he is, he's going to get caught out.
I love that play by Doran, though. The follow-up doesn't have to be immediate with that type of play, because Doran's going all the way to the other end with a safe hillside. So they apply that pressure regardless. It's not like he's circle. Yeah, it's not like he's stopping short and immediately taking an open engagement, in which case you need your teammates to follow up immediately. And you can see with Doran's play, Real Tiger 9
amazing.
Beautifully. Yeah, they immediately reacted to that play and readjusted their position and gave up the fight. So instead of just sitting there getting flustered and caught out, really good adjustment by Real Tiger 9. But the advantage goes to the Eastern Stars because they cut ahead into the zone. And now it's the Real Tiger 9 team stuck in the zone. So beautiful play out of both teams.
Yeah, massive respect on how they both reacted, of course. It just forces Real Tiger 9 to stick a little bit more heavily to the northern coastline that is, unfortunately, not as hold downable. There's very little hard cover around that area, and even having Octavian still a little bit in the blue is so good. Premix does catch him out, though. You can see just as we turned it off, Doran is able to respond onto Premix. Will the revive come out onto Octavian? Will it be worth going for the revive onto Octavian? It does seem to be the case as phase 4 is shifted towards the mountain.
The mountain, yeah. Not just any northwestern circle, we're getting one onto that giant top mountain where the 4 Romanian men, this is their game to maybe not necessarily win, but definitely get a lot of elimination points. Real Tiger 9, yeah, not getting the best of that positioning, but both teams played it to the best of their abilities. As far as Real Tiger 9 goes, like, I feel like they could have won the fight, but they had to do some adjustments 3 minutes earlier at the break of that fight. But adapting to the duration of that fight and as the fight played out, they still did a really good job. So I want to credit that to the Real Tiger 9 team.
YMCA snaking up. Oh, Ketu looks for the head of Spyro. Fortunately, the timing isn't quite right. Now he has to go on towards the attack. Lovely pre-fire shot. Switch over gun, man. Switch over gun before it's too late. Ketu can't do much. He gets knocked. He's on his own. YMCA lose another player.
Oh, the timing. The timing. I saw it. It happens so often.
Feels bad, man.
In multiple different esport titles where the second you decide to shoot is when that other player decides to just move for whatever reason, and you're just like, F. Well, I'm screwed now. So, sucks for that player. Chasma Gaming, Pocus, being a little bit of a Evil Knievel Daredevil. Definitely not working out there as a big pickup, a free point. Big team. they'll take that any day, any week.
Now, Eastern Stars used to... Actually, sorry, when I say used to, back in the PMPL, they landed a split drop on this Northwest Island, on this mountain range. It's one thing landing here, it's another thing kind of winning the game from this position, but I do think that familiarity will give them a slight advantage into the late stages of the game.
They have to hold down this location, though, as it is being pressed upon. Eastern Stars, I think, actually lost one
nice
player.
Molly.
Ooh, beautiful Molly, the way that spread right there, forcing the Bravos players to readjust. One of them goes down, or one of them is forced to push up. The other player, in that instinctual moment, falls back. So it caused a little bit of chaos there for the Bravos team, and that is where Eastern Stars strikes, and beautiful reaction timing shots right there by Eastern Stars.
Yeah, you're right. They did lose a player, but it was only one. Didn't stop them taking the challenge against Bravos. Game Lord, 2 players lost, but they do still have 6 eliminations. Do we have 4 Romanian men covering one side of the mountaintop? Big is just a little bit to the west of them. 3 shots by Dewey. Only connects half of them onto Mihi. He gets behind a bit of cover, but not the full cover. I don't quite think so. No. It is full cover.
Blue zone is closing in, though. Mihi's going to try and win this fight from the low ground. See them firing back and forth. Doobie with some really nice time peaks right there. I love this out of Doobie. That is trigger discipline. He's not getting too greedy to just get the knock, because if he does go down, that causes the entirety of the rest of the team to adjust their formations. So very selfless play right there, and not trying to, you know, just get his own points. But he knows he can readjust over here as the other big... Oh!
Well, okay.
And 762? I don't know about that one.
But here's the thing. That was a selfless play by Doobie, but I would love to have seen the rest of 4 Romanian men react a little bit quicker. There's no point in pulling out a selfless play if there's no team support. Now they're getting picked off one by one. So then you gotta ask yourself, what's the point in being selfless if I'm not gonna get the support? Fortunate, bad mistake from 4 Romanian men in my eyes.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the fault does lie on those 2 players, though.
Yeah.
If they played it mechanically better, they should be able to do that without the support of the 2 other teammates. Because there's a world where there should be more than one team pressing up that mountaintop. Like in a higher PMGC level, there might be more than one team, in which case they will all have to remain 4-man split and know how to hold it and stall it in a way. Not necessarily just eliminate the
But I
other
think
team.
Dewey stalled it really well, though.
It could have been better. If I'm going to be hypercritical, it could have been better.
Go for it. Okay.
And I would even venture to say, feel free to message those players from 4 Romanian men and ask them how they feel. If it was a team mistake, or if they feel like the individual players should have been able to play it better. I think I would venture to say, as a competitive player myself, I would have held that more on the individual players and say, yeah, you did a good job, but you should be able to do better in that type of position.
As it's a team game, I'd put that on the team mistake. Overall. That's my eyes. But I love the different perspectives we have, the different opinions we come on board as we're getting into the tail end of this game. The Valley of Death is occupied by both Game Lord and Rexpect. It's rare that we see Rexpect in the final circles of a game. It's been too long coming. Can they hold on? Game Lord was eliminated as far as I know. Now we're down to 4, and Eastern Stars are going to look to push in and compound them quite effectively. 10 elimination points for the Romanian side.
Eastern Stars with that grenade. I think he needs to toss it up a little bit higher. There we go. There's that jump toss, Nate. That should reach and do some damage to the Rexpect team, as the grenades are still continuing raining.
Oh my god.
Peak by Athos, predicting that player's peak, or the counter peak. Pretty much. Athens just down to bandages, no boosters, no first aids. The next circle shifts on up. Eastern Stars can make it to that circle. The circle has officially shifted off that mountaintop side, so the 4 Romanian men, they can't do much now at this point. And this should be an Eastern Star down to 2 players. Rexpect, if they can get that full reset, Rexpect can end up ending this game themselves.
Expect need to disengage now. They need to disengage quickly.
Oh my god.
That's a lovely nade, but Chasmek is going to be coming in from behind. Treason! It's a surprise! And finds Bazzi. I kind of feel bad for Bazzi, to be fair, but that was a lovely grenade by 4 Romanian men.
Yeah, that was thrown by 4 Romanian men across the mountainside. Like it's look at where Sarah is. He threw it from there all the way to where Trazen is. And by the way, I didn't even realize Chasmog Gaming was still in the game. So when Trazen popped up, that was a surprise for me too. Rexpect 3v1, more or less, at this. It's pretty much said and done for. There's no way there's no way Rexpect loses this match.
Nice.
Athos is just better though.
Gets a 1-on-1 against Raspu, but it's still going to be 1v2. He's going to swing around to the side. He has no healing. Needs to just confirm the kill. Does Raspu have something? 17 seconds for the blue zone to start closing in. I don't think he can even make it
zone.
up.
Yeah,
No, he's not in zone, but if he can loot up Raspu to get a first aid, he might be able to chunk the blue to make it up the hill. It's going to be easier said than done. Salazar is going to make the jump. Gets cut down to half health. Pulls off a first aid. He wants to finish this game off very, very quickly. He doesn't want Athos to die to the blue zone. He's going to jump on down, but he's going to get picked off. It's a 1v1. Athos is able to pick off a few bandages, but it's too little too late. The blue zone is going to finish him off, and Rexpect get the chicken dinner.
Oh, man. I really love the attempt out of Rex. That was, when you secure a Sandhawk game, and in that situation, you want to confirm more points. That was done very correctly.
Yeah, it was.
We've actually seen so many teams botch that. Like, they would just jump down and get knocked, or they jump down at, like, the wrong timings, or it's like, that was good. That was how you should do it. But, of course, Athos, man, I think when it was a 1v3, Athos was, like, only 40 or less than 50% health.
Yeah.
You saw he already used his last 3 bandages earlier, getting that knock onto Rexpect to begin with, and it was a 50 HP versus a 100 HP player, and Athos cleaned that one out, looking so strong. And then he was also ready for that player to jump down. That player just needed to hit one shot on Athos, and Athos would have got a knock, but Athos hit all of his shots and got another point for the Eastern Stars. So even though Rexpect took that game, Eastern Stars did as much as they could to secure as many points as they could, and they did it quite well.
I think it was like 14 eliminations they got in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So another like massive 20+ point game from Eastern Stars. Chasmak still did do decently, as did Game Lord, because Game Lord, even though they went out a little bit earlier, I think it was like 6 or 7 eliminations that they had, so a good base amount of points. All I'm saying with that is, speculation-wise, the fight for first in the leaderboard is very much on between Romania and France.
Well, that was our first Northwestern Circle game. Not quite what I expected. We did see a lot of teams die off drop. Like, we saw like 2 hot drop fights, so that might have led to the less chaotic Northwestern game that we usually see. And also, it was more frantic. A lot of teams were just kind of dying without being able to put up a fight, because like you mentioned, it was more of a frantic circle because teams weren't as comfortable or used to a Northwestern Circle, especially in this lobby. So I mean, we only got 1 day left. Maybe we'll get the same circle the next day and we'll see a much more clean match, so to say, where there's a lot more engaging fights. But at the end of the day, though, I just want to see that highlight one more time of Robs doing his DBS plays, that 1v2. And speaking about highlights, Imperium, we do have the highlights ready, and we're going to get set up for game number 4, the last match of the day. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a quick, short break.
PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament, the penultimate day, the second last day. Feels a little bit sad, man. I always hate when it kind of gets to the tail end of a tournament because you know it's ending soon. But we still have one more game to go in the penultimate day. Myself and Pierre Mutsute, we just had Sanhok, and it was a juicy game won by Rexpect. A little bit unexpected, but it's good to see.
Yeah, Rexpect, I think Rexpect navigated that circle quite well. They always kind of managed to position themselves more towards the center. And as far as the shifts go, it didn't hard shift once we got onto that island. So they took it upon themselves. True. Yeah, they took it upon themselves to get the... It wasn't shown on camera, but it was the compounds just downhill of that giant mountaintop where four Romanian men were at. It's like a little square compound directly east. A few of you guys might know what I'm talking about, but that's where Rexpect took up their position early on. So they prioritized those rotations, and they were quite well rewarded for it.
It was, I suppose, the thunder to an extent was stolen away by the likes of Eastern Stars, by the likes of Big, and the amount of elimination points and action both of those teams were enthralled in. As you have a look at the match rankings from that last game, despite Rexpect winning the game, it was Eastern Stars with the 14 eliminations and a second place that got them more points.
Yeah, 26 points to Rexpect's 20. I think that's the biggest point differential we've seen so far between a chicken dinner team coming in second and how much the first place team has got. So that's definitely the biggest gap I've seen there. So Eastern Stars stealing the show, but the Romanian side stealing the entire match as far as how many points gained for their community. But Chasmot Gaming and Game Lord following in close suit with 14 and 12 respectively. But huge game for Rexpect. 20 points for their side. That's going to put them, you know, not sure exactly where in the rankings, but we saw on the lower half of the overall leaderboards between the communities, it is quite a close fight for those different positionings from 7th down to 10th place.
Yeah, it's more that kind of like, like you said, that little bit of a fight between Spain, UK, Greece, to an extent the Czech Republic / Slovakia community, and even to a smaller extent, Portugal as well. It's not really the most important because when I look at the results we've had so far in today's games and how that correlates to speculation in terms of the overall standings, in today's 3 games, France, 55 points. Romania, 93 points. Germany, 64 points. So, as of right now, with one more game to go today and one more day after the end of today, Romania are closing that gap. Germany as well, not as effectively, but Romania have nearly halved the gap that they had at the start of the day.
Yeah. So, if they have another good match, so if they have a good match here, and France doesn't do as well, we're going to just assume France will put up some points. But that does mean going into the last day, first place is not guaranteed for France by any means. Yeah. And it's starting to shape up that way. I absolutely love that. And that's where it comes down into how will they play? How are they going to perform under the pressure? As a team in second place, are they going to try and go a little bit too hard and end up making some mistakes? And then for the team in first place, it's like, are they going to potentially play a little bit too safe, too passive, and not do as much and lose that first place? So this is where the mental game starts to come into factor, coming into this last match and the last day.
It is also quite pleasurable to see Eastern Stars back in good form because they had that low, I suppose, week 2. Specifically, they just weren't really playing that well, and to give credit to 4 Romanian men, they were keeping them perked up quite nicely, especially at the start of week 3 as well. But now with two days to go, especially with their IGL not playing in today's games, Eastern Stars have gotten in their 3 games themselves They've gotten 57 and 6, about 63 points in today's 3 games alone just for Eastern Stars.
Yeah, Eastern Stars having a really good day, even without their IGL. And that's not to say like the IGL isn't crucial. It just means the team is well-rounded enough and that the IGL himself has led the team in a way where he's able to really teach the players and not just hold their hands the entirety of the time when they play. I think that's what makes a really good IGL. One that's able to bring up the level of the players and not just, you know, be the one leading all the time himself.
With this playing path on the east going from north to south, one thing that I find interesting in a really positive way is that Eastern Stars has once again gone into Slaughter Kameshki. On one hand, you might go, well, why Milta Power is their normal drop spot? Yeah, that's fair enough. But look at the amount of traffic that's in front of them if they go to their normal drop spot in Milta Power. You got YMCA, you got Chasmac, you've got the 100, you've got kind of Golden Esports in this case, and Bravis. Whereas where they are now, yeah, okay, Game Lord, yeah, okay, a little bit of big, but not really that much traffic. There's in my eyes, a lot more variable for them to play in from the edge and control the pace of their own game.
Lore taking a hot drop fight with Real Tiger 9. Okay, this is definitely new. Real Tiger 9 has had to contest this area against the likes of Mega Power, which is a very strong hot drop team fight. So I definitely give the edge over to Real Tiger 9, and I want to see them win this fight. Because if you're a team that's been contested so many times, and a new team shows up that's never really contested hot drops, you better win that one. Or else it just goes to show, like, you guys have not really been learning anything when it comes to hot drop contentions and how to play it.
You're dead right. I fully agree. However, I really like Galore's spread. Having that one player in the back line, if he could even get up to the church area, that could be even more effective on how the rest of the Glore team are able to bait Real Tiger 9 out. What I do want to see as well is at least one of the Real Tiger 9 players utilize the roof of these Pachinki buildings.
Yeah, Real Tiger 9, they're familiar with this, because the last time Mega Power fought them, Real Tiger 9 decided to defend and hold this side of Pachinki as well. So they should definitely have the familiarity advantage on their side, and hopefully even though they haven't been continuously fighting Mega Power, I'm hoping that they've made some adjustments and planned ahead in case it happens again. And we'll see it play out now as Bravis, one of the Bravis player, getting kind of caught out in a split drop engagement right there. So Bravis will lose one. And I do think Rexpect also picked up a point elimination earlier in the Rozhok area off drop.
2 players down across the lobby in the first 4 minutes. It's okay. That can happen. It's by no means uncommon at all. Well, Glore, they're still continuing to loot up, which I don't think is a bad thing, because once you have a bit of a spread inside Pachinki, I think there is that extra level of safety to loot up until the right moment strikes to engage. But that Real Tiger 9 that's on the off angle, out like technically outside of the city, I think he's using the gutter strips. That could be a really big moment for Real Tiger 9.
And oh, nice pre-fire there. Very aware of where that player might be. Yeah, so once again, the off-angle player in this situation, if he can get the opening, he should. Whereas we saw in the very first match today, oh, is it Septives once again in the off-angle? I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because typically players are kind of locked into those roles. Like, you hold the off-angle flank, and oh, well, that changes everything. A beautiful grenade out of Glore, beautifully cooked as well. And Septives, oh no, Septives is not the off-angle player, but he gets knocked on top of the rooftop. Real Tiger 9. Oh man, this is not looking good for Real Tiger 9 at all. And I feel like Nazgod feels the pressure and he gives away his location as well, trying to do something to help and firing off the shots. Real Tiger 9, 2v4 situation.
A counter knock did get pulled out by Ayu, so it's more 2v3. However, you're dead right. It's not looking good for Real Tiger 9. Communication has to be absolutely spot on for the members of Real Tiger 9. Even the ones that are knocked. Because when you're knocked, obviously we've talked about it already and we've seen it already. You're able to give the information over. So premix, use that TPP to crawl in to try and grab some valuable information on the members of Glore. Same with Septives. As of right now, they're allowing the revive to be pulled out.
Septives does get revived. But there's a missed opportunity there, right, for AU. I know it's smoked out. He can't see it. But that's where Premix could have came in. If Premix put himself in a position knowing that he won't be able to get revived, but gets close enough to see some TPP info, he potentially could have called out which side of the wall that revive was going out on, and AU could have gotten a knock and a re-knock, changing the fight to a 3v2. So it's just small details like that that can really impact the fight and ultimately impact the entirety of the game, right? If they win this fight. Yeah. What's not to say as a 3-man, they could get a top 3 with how circles play out. So, I mean, it's a 3v4. We're not going to count Real Tiger 9 out just yet. But they are getting their buttons pushed in right now.
IU. Sliver of health. They being cooked up by Leonardo. If he can maybe paint a successful picture for the rest of his team. Not quite looking that way as Nazgod on the rooftops of Pachinki is able to get a clean knock, followed by a second. The clutch is coming through. It's gone from a 3v4 to a 3v2 in the favor of Real Tiger 9. Masha goes onto the third story. Not much he can do. Leonardo in the other building. He's going to push on in towards IU. Takes a hell of a lot of damage. It's going to go back in towards the safety of the building where his teammate is occupied. First day being pulled out. Real Tiger 9, they're turning it around.
This is a fun fight to watch. Very back and forth. Glore had such a huge big advantage. Definitely not capitalizing well enough off of it. Leonardo with the AK, and just like that, Real Tiger 9 taking that fight. And they're shooting the boxes too. I think I'll give it to them. They brought it back from a 2v4. So I still gotta say though, Imperia, was it because Real Tiger 9 played so well, or was it more so because Glore kind of messed that up? Right? We talk about it with Real Tiger 9 versus Mega Power, and we see Mega Power, they'll be on the aggressive, but they don't mess up, and Real Tiger 9 fold and fall over.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd say it was over a little bit of both. Solid turnaround and a bit of a mistake initially. Wasted. He does make a mistake while cooking up an aid, and Lemna Skate gonna continue to take the fight. We haven't really seen, at least I don't remember where phase 1 went. Not gonna lie. This is in Military Island, so I don't know why these two teams are fighting inside Military Island. I know Lemna Skate really didn't know where they want to go, and I suppose maybe this makes sense because Military Island was inside of phase 1. It's still inside of phase 2. This is a tricky circle shift.
It's a little bit looking like a 60-40 potential Military Island ending here as Lemon Skate and La Familia continue their engagement. And this is looking almost like a chess battle. Different positions taken up by different individual players. A constant back and forth. Lemon Skate, though, has the upper hand for now, as far as numbers go, but that could easily change if Clegg hits a nice shot. Where's the follow-up? I get they're distracting this player, but where's the follow-up? Where does it come from? And oh my god.
Okay, Clay.
Oh my god, Clay.
Jesus
Clay, to pull a Mazzaro off here? Is this a potential Mazzaro play right? Okay.
Oh.
Alright.
Where's the rest of La Familia? Where's Singy? Come on!
What's he doing the whole time? Oh, please.
Oh my lord.
Zenny, please win this one for Clay. You got to win this one for Clay. He's not too sure where the Lemon Escape player is, but he knows a revive might be happening, and he's got a timing to make right here. A 1v1, maybe into a 1v2. Sound cues are made. I think that's a mistake out of Lemon Escape, but they can still turn this back around. Zenny is in a 1v2. He gets one. 1v1, the follow-up, the whip around. But the shots did not connect.
Oh my lord.
Very messy from both teams. A lot of mistakes were made by both sides.
Yeah, I don't know what there is to say, to be honest. I don't really want to touch upon it too much. This game goes on, like you said, a little bit sloppy from both sides. Biggest mistake definitely in the arms of La Familia at the end of the day. And it's something they're gonna want to learn from across the board. Either way, this game goes on, and Chazmac, Shadowin went down, so they're left with 3 and they're pinched in between 2 teams, Eastern Stars and the 100.
The 100 with a nice hilltop spread position. 2 or 3 at the compound and 1 at the watchtower. Nice spread here. And you can see they already have 1 elimination. I think onto the side of Chosmak, most likely. They breached this compound and Chosmak was not able to adjust fast enough, losing 1 player. I almost want to see the 100 push that team then. It's a 4v3. And I think the 100 has evolved to a point where they're a team. I can feel comfortable taking 4v3 compound pushes and come out ahead without losing a single player. So in essence, I believe they're a team that can pick up those 3 points with no real worries.
Here are the Flames. Gonna get close to the fires. Phase 3 shifts up and it goes northwest. The mainland coastline, the southeast of Pachinki Hill, where you have Real Tiger 9 or the remaining Real Tiger 9 holding things out. They're going for the continued push onto Chazmac.
Oh, there we
Not
go.
gonna lie, this is great for
There we
Romania
go.
and Germany in terms of the overall standings. So the UK side of the 100 giving a little bit of hope in terms of the leaderboard, but Chazmac's still not finished. Azer throws out an aid inside the garage area. As having to pull off a bandage. If he can completely disengage, that could work out. But you can see a nade goes right up on top of the window. He sees it. He throws off a first aid to try and recover. But a molly. How is he not taking that molly damage? I do not know.
Trazen runs across, feeling uncomfortable, but forced to run through the fire and the flames. And there we go. The 100. Imperium, I absolutely love it when I'm right, but I love it more when I'm right about a team, when I'm complimenting them before they're
Yes.
about to do something. There we
Yeah.
go. That's exactly. The 100 has evolved to that team where they will take a 4v3 when they don't have to pick up those points, and they did it beautifully. Not a single player getting knocked. Well done to the 100. You love to see it.
Real Tiger 9, they don't love to see what's happening right now. That hill on the southwest of, or southeast, should I say, of Pachinki, not really massively viable for a 3-person team. And especially with all due respect to Real Tiger 9, what I have seen from them, their natural playstyle does not complement holding on to a sprawling hill the way that needs to be occupied. Why the hell do you think Big have gone there? Because they can't handle that kind of hill. They have the confidence, they have the spread, they have the synergy where they're able to hold that kind of hill down.
Yeah, some positions definitely harder to hold than others, but that also makes it a strong position. And I can't blame Real Tiger 9 for trying to. Hopefully they're learning some things here and there with their formations. And as critical as we are of teams, I never want a team to take it in the way of, oh, okay, we shouldn't do that anymore. No. We're not saying that. We're saying you did it incorrectly, and we're going to criticize you for it, but that just means you got to keep doing it to get better. And that hilltop side is a strong position. Teams would love to be able to hold that position down, but when a certain team like Big wants that spot, you better get your defense up to par against the aggression of big. And also, you better get your driving skills up to par so you don't just crash straight into a rock. As the 100 coming in from the blue zone, YMCA making an adjustment, realizing they have to gatekeep this, as Ketu's actually back here by himself. So I think Ketu's giving his teammates the info that a team's breaching in from this side, but is the 100 aware of Ketu? I don't think so.
Honestly, I don't even know what YMCA are doing. This circle shift and the rotation. Ketu is at least able to catch Will out and does pick up an elimination point. I don't hold that against the 100. It's the last thing you expect, especially when you see like what looks like a full team right in front of you on vehicles. Yeah. A return knock came out at least. So we're into a clean 3v3 on the beachside coastline between the 100 and YMCA. Icy's boss flanking around. They got to be careful though. This is outside of the circle. If they have any idea that there's a team in the edge, there could be a pretty bad third party against one of them.
YMCA trying to do that gatekeep, but the 100 do pass on by. Eastern Stars getting into fight with Game Lords right now. Oh, that grenade's going to tag. Okay, it does tag a little bit, but pushing up the stairs. Game Lords robs another moment for him in the playbook of taking out a player. Yep, of taking out a player when they're going for that revive. That's got to be his thing now, man. As the new circle up on your screen right there, hard on the south side with a lot of water left in play. Haven't seen a circle end like this in a long time, but this should be a very exciting match to watch.
Oh, the push is coming in. The 100. They have forgotten about YMCA. They've forgotten about Golden Esports, and now they're focused on Bravas, but a lovely molly by Louis. Connects onto Icy. Down to his knees. Across either side of the road, Bravas do have a good spread, but unfortunately Morphe boy has given up that shack as he is knocked down. Daddy, he's on his own. Best thing he can do is just wait it out and hope that Bravas do not try and push him, or they get pushed by the likes of Golden Esports.
The 100 down to 1. He is in zone for this coming circle in that shack, so he will survive once more without having to move anywhere. Looking at the other side of things, YMCA, they lost Ketu out in the blue zone. Don't agree with that earlier on, by the way. There's no reason for him to be stuck and left behind out of zone when a team pulls up. But YMCA still with 3. They could do something here. And Game Lord making a nice rotation right there. Game Lord's position right there on the mini map looks like it's wide out in the open, but there is a nice little dip right there where players can try and survive, as 2 of them are getting knocked though by Big.
You know why? Because Big are in the compound and they have the high ground, so it kind of cancels it out. There is still that defense position for Game Lord for sure, so they're able to get the revives, but Big know exactly where Game Lord are. And that could potentially massively punish Game Lord in the next 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, I think Game Lord just miscalculated just slightly where that dip is, where they could be safe, so 2 of their players did get knocked. But it's a good dip. I think a lot of competitive teams should start using this dip rotation right here, because this is like a nice little neat pocket that's...
Yeah.
At the PMGC level, this dip will get taken very quickly. Like, everybody knows about this dip at the PMGC level. But if you're up and coming, this is a dip that not too many newer amateur teams know, and you can take advantage of this in a tournament of your own, just like how Game Lord is doing right now. Yeah, you can see right here just how comfortable they are. And chances of getting the circle, really high for them too, since they took that dip, which is mid-circle.
Rexpect have a sprawling spread on the coastline of the mainland. I really can't fault that spread. A tiny part of me wants to maybe see them tighten up, but on the other hand, I get why it's working right now. We'll have to wait and see how many teams really survive on this western edge. Fear the Flame are able to bridge camp the likes of Uncanny and 4 Romanian men. Sarah, Redox, both of them go down. Good shots from Perks.
4 Romanian men right here. They have a long ways to go. I mean, the circle's right next to them, but they've got an entire team in front of them, and that's a very big disadvantage push for them from their side as well. So not sure how much longer they can last. YMCA, I kind of like this. Instead of rotating in by car where they'll get a shot at the whole way, they're going to Navy SEAL style it up to Golden Esports. And, ooh, I really want to see how this plays out. Will Golden be ready for the water snakes, the water breach, as 4 Romanian men still trying to push their way in with 2 players, doing the best they can. But you can see how this terrain is very hard to climb up. And Fear, the Flame, just hard gatekeeping them right now.
They're hard gatekeeping them, but we could see a bit of a sandwich as one of the RecSpec players at least is getting quite close to one of the Fear the Flame players at that anchor point position inside the southwestern edge of the circle. Bravus, Louis, the last player up, has 2 of the big players getting quite close. I love this split from big. 2-2, it's perfect. Again, they have absolutely full idea of the fact that Game Lord is inside that dip. Japan is knocked. 4 Romanian men to find the opening. Rana sprains his way in. And this is what I was talking about with the potential third party from RecSpec. I think that knocked Fear the Flame off their focus, off their perch. And now 4 Romanian men are pushing hard. They're pushing fast. Dewey gets knocked, but Rana goes down as well. Fear the Flame just about survive.
Lewis with the DBS in the shack, having to defend now against the big team. Big comes out on top, of course, and Big will control the northern side of the circle. Game Lord loses that circle, but you saw the amount of grass all around that dip. They could easily prone in on this next shift. Fear the Flame taking the fight to RecSpec now that they have to push more deeper into the eastern side of the map. And RecSpec with 4 up. YMCA, by the way, did indeed Navy SEAL style their way onto the shoreline side. They'll have to take a fight with Golden next. And it's a lot of isolated team fights here. So this will be nice to see how it plays out.
20 players left, 6 teams. So most of the teams have kind of like 4 to 3 players left alive. Just one thing to point out, it's a big part of why we're seeing kind of maybe more isolated team fights. RecSpec. Salazar is kind of holding Fear the Flame back on one side with Rasmu, Big A, and Brad Boy stick to the far east side. I didn't think that Navy SEAL rotation would work for YMCA, but credit where it's due. How much further will get them in the game? That remains to be seen. Golden Esports are also covering the beach side, but they can't stick too far out because they big overlooking their spot.
All the teams are actually in zone right now, besides Fear the Flame. So these 2 players of Fear the Flame most likely will be taken out. But with so much fighting happening all around 360, this chaos could be a good timing for them to sneak on in. Goldie? Oh, okay. I think they just went out. Yeah, Fear the Flame did go out. So we're down to 5 teams. Everybody's able to get the resets, though, because no team really wants to push right now since they all have the circle. Golden venturing a little bit closer. Mazzaro will back up as Michi didn't get his first aid off yet because he just got revived. So they're going to fall back, and Mauricio does go down. Good cover fire right there. I think he baited Golden in just a little bit. Golden taking the bait, getting knocked.
Yeah, Mazzaro shouldn't have pushed that right after getting the revive onto me. I get why he did to try and, you know, suppress, but he was actually met by that Golden Esports player, and he ended up being taken down to a very low amount of health. Luckily, he wasn't knocked as me is back up on his feet. Game Lord, like you said, able to push into the edge of the circle, snaking their way through. The shift comes out and goes right on top of Golden Esports. That's down at the bottom of the cliff side. This is a cluster truck. I think this is one of the rare games, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the rare games where I've absolutely no idea who's going to win.
I think it's going to come down to, I think Big, if Game Lord could sneak their way in onto the engagement, onto Big when they're concerned about Golden, Game Lord will be the one to take the fight. But then again, from the south side, Respect is completely uncontested.
Exactly.
Right, Respect is the only team on the high ground on the south side. So if they smoke and work their way in, I mean, Big is going to be focused on them. Big has got their work cut out for them. It comes down to what Game Lord's going to do and how well they time it. As Respect as well need to time their push in too. And the teams on the lower half of the map, they could win this too potentially.
Oh, he is going to actually crash in to try and find some kind of anchor position inside the circle. And you called it with Game Lord. Snaking their way in. This makes me think maybe the memory on Big isn't quite as good as what it seems. They should have known that Game Lord was on that side. I know it can be hard to keep an eye on the elimination feed and really not be aware that Game Lord are still alive in this game. Navarro continues to get the knocks here and there. YMCA, nothing more they can do. Respect pushes it down. Another double knock by Robs, but unfortunately he's going to go down to his knees in the process. Narvello is the last player up. Respect. They're covering their angles. 9 eliminations so far. They're picking off Golden Esports one by one, while Big, they're just sticking to this game by a sliver of a hope.
Sorrow just down to bandages. So Rex decided to take that low ground. The pressure from Game Lord and Big, too big. So they went for that low ground play. Actually, it's a 2-2 split. So they want to keep a little bit of the high ground. Game Lord's still involved in this too. Victor is knocked and bleeding out. Narvello's the last one up. And Golden hold their heads down and hold their 3 members still alive. And Big was taking massive punishment. But they managed to keep 3.
VK got in the vehicle for a sec. He drove up, but Victor caught out, as was Narvello. Didn't Narvello hear the vehicle sound from BK's vehicle? And maybe it just wasn't quite for long enough to hear those sounds. And unfortunately, it isn't meant to be. Still a 4th place finish for Game Lord. You can't really argue with that. However, one of their counterparts in the race for first, Big, are still alive. Respect won the previous game in Sandhawk. Are they going to get a back-to-back chicken dinner? Hola. Como esta, Respect? Seems like you're feeling pretty damn good right now. Pizarro, the firecracker, that got the 1v3 onto Chazmak in the second game of the day. Can he get another one? Going to be swayed this time around, though. Get to knock and a kill with the nade.
This is looking like a big game. They got the chicken dinner on the first Erangel of the day. They're about to secure a potential second Faria down to low HP, and that is big. Getting not just one chicken dinner for the day, getting 2 in one day now. The improvement, okay? When they got their first, when they closed out a game finally, I was excited for them. Now they're showing to us they could close out a game, not just once, but twice now in a day. I mean, you talk about improvement out of the big side. 2 games, both on Erangel. Different zones, different strategies acquired. But they close it out in the big fashion, controlling the edge, controlling their spacing, the 2-2. I mean, I like the team. You could say I'm biased, but I think they're moving quite a bit.
I overall agree with you, but in that game specifically, I do believe there is an element of luck.
Okay. Like, in terms of circles,
in terms of,
or?
No, not in terms of circle. I mean in terms of Game Lord should have focused on Big specifically, but Game Lord kind of split their focus. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy for Game Lord. The fact that they were taking fights against Respect and Big, it allowed Big to reset. And then, when they were initially taking a bit of a fight against Golden, they couldn't breach that. Mihi got knocked, Mazzaro nearly got knocked, Mihi got knocked again. Luckily, Golden... Well, I suppose luckily Golden weren't in a position, but they didn't really try to push that absolutely massively. So, circumstantially, I think there was definitely a couple of mistakes by Big that were luckily not capitalized on massively by their opponents. That's kind of what I mean by that.
Yeah, the push by Golden got really dicey, and they are kind of lucky in the sense that the rest of Golden didn't push up together. Otherwise, they would have been taken out there. And then, yeah, I think they also kind of relied on the mistake by Game Lord. But Game Lord, if they full committed to Big, right, that would open the door for Rexpect to just both of them. So
I know.
Game Lord was playing for the win. They had to split their focus. They tried to do what would eventually get them the win, and that includes splitting the focus, which does lower the chance of winning the either engagement with either team. So in a sense,
for sure,
Game Lord did the correct play from.
Oh yeah.
This is funny. I'm gonna mention this real quick. I almost feel like it's easier to play in higher tier lobbies because teams do the correct things, right? So in that situation, Game Lord is supposed to split their focus, which allows Big to kind of survive that brunt. I have played games in scrims where a team in Game Lord's position would full send Big. Big would barely win that fight because they just got full sense, but then the third party out Rexpect will kill Big and Game Lord. And I've been in those situations where I was Big and I'm like, what the heck is Game Lord doing? Why did they full send us? They just got both of us killed.
Fair.
So, I mean, Game Lord did the right thing. So I wouldn't say Big got lucky from that aspect, that Game Lord didn't full commit, because I think Game Lord wasn't supposed to. But still, it got dicey.
Fair.
We saw a lot of Big get knocked. It came down to one player trying to get those revives. But we've seen a lot of close games, even at the PMGC level, where teams barely ink it out. And at the end of the day, teams will always make micro mistakes here and there, even at the highest tippy top of levels. And this is kind of an example of just surviving and capitalizing off those mistakes and minimizing your own mistakes as much as you can to that late game. So still a well-deserved chicken dinner, and I'm sure you agree with that too.
I do. I know that there's a slight air of bias with Big because you're a big fan of them, and I'm not holding that against you, of course. Yeah, I overall agree with you, and especially the point you make about it's easier to play any competitive game, scrim or tournament when you're playing with higher skill teams, because like you said, they do the correct thing, and it's not that it's more predictable, but it to an extent is more predictable in that regard. So yeah, you're dead right. But either way, we're also going to be dead right when I say we're going to break. Highlights of game 4 followed by the match rankings of game 4. Don't go away. See you guys in a few minutes. Oh boy, what a way to end the penultimate day of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Myself, Imperium, as usual with Zute. A hell of a day of action, 4 games, a lot of points earned, and the leaderboard, it's getting just a little bit closer. I love it. I really love it, Zute.
Yeah, I mean, you're the numbers guy right now. I'm sure you got some good news for us coming into tomorrow. So unfortunately, we can't show the overalls at the end of each day, which, you know, I wish we could.
Yeah.
But Imperium's got you guys with the hookup, so you definitely don't want to miss the next day, the last and final day. But before we get to the overalls, Imperium, let's talk a little bit about the match that just happened. I mean, big with a chicken, not just any chicken though, 2 chickens now in one day. Our biggest criticism from them since day number 1, we very quickly saw, okay, this team can fight. This team loves to take engagements, and they're really good at it. And usually teams like that are also good into the late game, because development-wise, teams typically focus on the late game and then move into fighting and developing that skill. But Big kind of doing it backwards. So our biggest criticism always was, where are they in the late game? Why do they always die out so early? And when they do get to the late game, like we saw week 2, they got more into the late game. But you weren't here for it that one day. There was a game they should have easily closed out, and they didn't. And that hugely disappointed me. And I just was always on their ass about, can they secure the chicken though? Can they close out the games? And then they got a chicken. They got another chicken. And then today, they don't just get 1, but they get 2 in one day. So that is just like, you know, stocks are up. You know, that meme, you know, it goes right. That is
stonks.
Big right now. Yeah, stonks.
Yep.
Big are stonks right now. So I'm really glad to see that.
To the moon indeed. Yeah, we always have and always will give credit where it's due. And when a team prove us, I don't want to say prove us wrong, but prove our point in a learning in a learning way, and say, hey, okay, yeah, we need to evolve our late game, our ability to control late game. Yeah, they do. You can't argue with it. A great day or a great couple of games for Respect. Yeah. I'm so genuinely so happy to see this team start to find a not only a little bit of success, but a little bit of consistency. I'm still a little bit hesitant in terms of from a full consistency standpoint, because I worry the volatility is still there across games. But coming into tomorrow, the final day, it really does please me, because I'm a big fan of Respect as an organization. But Game Lord do manage to get a decent chunk of points, 15 in total.
And to touch on Respect a little more, representing Spain, right? Team Bravis, also from Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, today they didn't do too well, but we saw just yesterday, you know, they had their moments of brightness too. And coming into today, Respect is going to be the one carrying that torch for Spain today. I will love to see them being able both to shine bright on a singular day. And that might be tomorrow, or that might be, you know, a couple months down the line from now when they, you know, continually practice and improve. But I want to give a nod to the Spain community as well today for Respect showing up for them. And yeah, it was a very, very action-packed day with a lot of highlight moments, Imperium.
Yeah, and I have some kind of maths to throw your way to build up a little bit more into tomorrow's final day of the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. So France, in today's 4 games, good recovery, 70 points, not to be sniffed at.
Okay.
But Romania, 98. Germany, 98.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's not much in terms of 30 points or nearly 30 points. But it does mean that the ground is a little bit more shaken for France. It's not guaranteed. I do feel it's at that point where it's enough of a lead that if they lose it, if they drop down to second, it will be realistically because of them throwing as a community.
Yeah.
But it still will require the strongest Romanian day ever in the PMECT if they are realistically going to conquer Game Lord.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right.
And
Romania has to play the best they've ever have, and France has to play the worst they've ever had.
Yeah.
And it'll only be those two factors combined where we might see an upset in first place, but still, not, you know, first place aside, the games itself have always just been more and more exciting each day. Like, it's not so much that the games have gotten better, so to say, but it's the storylines that we've been following from all these different teams and their representative. We see growth in the teams, not so much, you know, crazier and crazier games, but the growth is what really, you know, kind of brings home the pudding, so to say. And I think that's why I would be very sad, you know, to end tomorrow off as the last day, because I'm quite invested. I'm seeing a lot of, you know, storylines being built. But still, I hope the viewers too will be there to share that experience with us as we go into the last day tomorrow, Imperium.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit bittersweet, but till it's over, the action is still going to go on. One more day in the PUBG Mobile Europe Community Tournament. Same time, of course. Same wonderful place. Myself and Zute, we bid you farewell. See you all tomorrow for the final day. Have a good evening.